How's it going, ladies and bruises? I'm Bobby Sixkilla and welcome back to Root Double, believe it or not. It's been a year and a half since I played this game, and it is finally time for me to fix the missing episode in the playlist. Something must have happened when I first recorded it a year and a half ago where I must have lost this episode. I cannot find the footage for it, so I'm going to re-record it with limited knowledge of what I'm doing because it's been so long. But I did find where I was up to, so let's carry on from here. And hopefully we can bridge that gap. Sully walked with the professor down the hallway to the neuroscience laboratory. Along the way, Sully asked the professor a question. Professor, I heard I was an orphan. That's right. When you were an infant, you were in an orphanage in France that went bankrupt, and so I took custody of you, since you had nowhere to go. The professor answered without any change in her facial expression. But Sully shook her head. Lies. Huh? I was born in Labo, wasn't I? I'm the child of a former Labo test subject, aren't I? Those words stopped the professor in her tracks. Who told you this? The man whose memories were transferred the other day had knowledge of that information. Is it true? It is. The professor spoke in a shameful voice, and then she continued in a tone of consolation. I know it might come as a shock to you, Yui. Not particularly. All she thought was, the circumstances of her birth were irrelevant to changing anything about her future. But she was still curious about something. Who were my father and mother? If I tell you, can you promise to never bring up this topic again? Promise. And with that, Dr. Tenkawa took a deep breath and answered. Your mother was a French woman named Alice Inflame. The very first rank S aptitude communicator discovered in the world 13 years ago, at the time when BC was just starting to gain recognition. She was designated as Communicator A and became the trigger that led to Labo's establishment. Where is my mother now? After you were born, she passed away due to postpartum complications. Then my father? Your father was a Labo researcher named Aishi Azumi, the administrator in charge of Alice at the time. He fell in love with Alice while she was confined. Love? By the time Alice was confined in Labo, she was already inflicted with a terrible mental condition. But there were times when she would regain her sanity. She often told us, please kill me. It was hard for me to bear, but it must have been even tougher on Mr. Azumi, since he was in charge of him. Eventually, his sympathy and compassion turned into romantic feelings for her. The two of them began to hold secret rendezvous. Alice, too, established an emotional bond with him during her fleeting periods of sanity, and then you were conceived. Oh, what happened to him afterwards? Before you were born, he died in an accident during an experiment. Sully consolidated all of that information in her head. She quickly concluded the circumstances behind her birth. So is this what happened? A researcher impregnated a confined test subject. Labo tried to cover up the scandal. But the test subject was a top communicator, so the child would possibly be born a communicator as well. Labo wanted the test subject so they could follow from birth, so instead of abortion, they had the mother carry the child to term. I am that child. Is that it? No, Labo's ethics hadn't sunk that low at the time. It wasn't until her 6th month that Alice was discovered to be pregnant. With her already being on the cusp of her 3rd trimester, abortion was impossible. I understand now. The facility started going crazy after Mr. Azumi died. That man was the conscience of Labo. But I've been confined here as a test subject, even after all that. For what reason? Because you have no living relatives, and I thought it would be too hard for you to live on your own. That and the top brass didn't wish for you to live outside. I'm sorry, I've got nothing but excuses. Dr. Tenkawa muttered that bitterly. Sully sighed and asked another question. I didn't have any aptitude at all. I'd be useless to Labo, wouldn't I? You were given roles so that wouldn't be the case. The WX particle exposure experiment was part of it. The energy amounts were managed so that they would not have any lethal effects on your body. Even the official stance was that your existence wouldn't be without meaning, as long as those sorts of experiments persisted. Then the same problem went for the memory transfer experiment. Ever since long ago, Sally did not think it was a particularly useful experiment. There was no meaning behind turning a test subject into a prodigy if she couldn't leave Labo. But not even Sally wanted to think about what happened to test subjects whose existences lost meaning. As Sally's thought process reached a dead end, the professor spoke up. Say, Yui, you can at least believe in this. You were not an unwanted child, you were a product of your parents' love for one another. That doesn't matter either way, but if neither of my parents were around, then who named me? Huh? My name, Yui. Who named me that? Sally's designation was subject Y, but Dr. Tenkawa was the only one to call her Yui, and only when the two of them were alone. I did, because your parents both died before they could name me. Why that name? I wanted to give a name to my daughter if I ever had one. That name to my daughter if I ever had one. Yui because I wanted to raise a girl, wrapped in gentleness. Do you hate it? No. It's not particularly uncomfortable here. You're gentle too, Professor. Above all, you gave me a name, so I like it. The Professor's eyes widened at those words. She then hung her head without saying anything. Sally peeked into the Professor's face. Professor? Why are you crying? The Professor said nothing. The only sound in the quiet hall was the soft pitter-patter of falling teardrops. A few days after the abrupt physical examination, the uneventful days continued a while longer. Sally had finished reading all of the books the Professor brought for her, but even so, there were no incoming plans for experiments. She started to get anxious. Did something happen? Sally looked toward the door that would not open. She had thought that the days would repeat the same way forever, that the Professor would come into the room, like usual, and take it for another experiment. In any case, something strange. But there was no way for her to find out the cause behind the situation. Right as she pondered what to do, the door opened. Professor? Sally called out reflexively. Yui. What's today's experiment, Professor? Sally was happy to see the Professor, thinking her arrival meant the return of life as usual. But something was different that day. I'm sorry, Yui. The memory transfer experiment has been terminated. You're no longer participating in experiments. Sally doubted her ears. In other words, she'd been released from her one and only duty. Why? Subject N has lost her individuality, and the experiments cannot continue with her in that state. You don't mean enification? She remembered hearing that term before, but what she couldn't remember was if she heard it with her own ears, or if it was a copy of someone else's knowledge. But what she knew for sure was that once enified, communicators did not return to normal. Perhaps 6 years of experimentation were too much for her brain to handle. What about the new communicator? There's someone designated as subject Y2, isn't there? It's been decided that she won't participate in the memory transfer experiment. She's the last communicator Labo has, so she cannot be exposed to any risk of enification. So the experiments can no longer continue. No. Sally shouted before she realized it. She clung to the Professor and spoke with a trembling voice. Please, do more experiments, Professor. I can't stand being a meaningless existence. Cramming in memories is the meaning of my existence. I'm an empty void made for that purpose, aren't I? Please don't take my role away from me. I'm sorry, Yui. It's too dangerous to continue the experiments. Your brain's been negatively affected too. Have you not noticed any symptoms? If we're not mistaken, your self-consciousness has been growing to extreme heights, but in return, you've been losing the ability to understand others' feelings. Lies. Okay then, Yui, can you tell me how I'm feeling right now? I can. Then tell me. Dr. Tenkawa smiled. His smile was a key indicator for Sally to judge. Sally felt like she was making a serious mistake somewhere, but she stated her judgment nonetheless. You're having fun. The moment Sally gave her answer, tears suddenly welled up in the Professor's eyes. The Professor cried while still smiling. Professor, what does that facial expression mean? It's okay, you don't have to think about it anymore. The Professor hugged Sally's shoulders as she spoke. You're already at the limit. I swear I'll do everything that I can, so please. Her voice was gentle. So gentle that even Sally could just barely recognize that the Professor was worried about her. But none of that mattered to Sally, for she was now aware that she had been cut away from the world. and she shuddered at the loneliness. A long time passed after that. Sully's voice echoed throughout her room. 195, 196, 197. She was counting push-ups. 200. Sully finished her training and took a deep breath. Whew! Sully thought to herself as she wiped off her sweat. Exercise is good. If I move my body until it gets sore, it takes my mind off unnecessary thoughts and I can really feel the results. She finally became able to use the extensive physical techniques that had been written onto her brain. That said, she couldn't practice gymnastics or track and field techniques in the room. Sully's favourites were things like simple muscle training and martial arts. The kata training methods in Japanese martial arts were particularly suitable for her needs, since they allowed for the honing of one's combat skills even in the absence of a partner. She imagined enemies in front of her to fight. She already fought countless times with these shadows. Recently, she had been fighting several of these enemies in quick succession. She could really feel herself getting stronger. Though of course, it's all meaningless in the end. But as she was shut off from the world, Sully had no proof of her own existence aside from animalistic responses like growth and fatigue. Training, reading, those two things had become Sully's entire life. Sully took a shower in the bathroom. Her room was furnished with. There was nothing for her to do afterwards, just sleep. She changed into her sleeper and crawled into bed. And soon enough, it came time for lights out, and the room went dark. The professor didn't come today either. The professor had made it a habit to come up with some sort of reason to go see Sully each day. But these last few days, even that had come to a halt. Is she busy seeing other test subjects? The more she thought about it, the more frightened she became. She tried to stop thinking, but she had a hard time going to sleep. Sully shut her eyes in the darkness, but after a short while, the light suddenly turned on. She almost feared that morning had come before she'd fallen asleep. But as soon as that thought crossed Sully's mind, the professor rushed into the room. Yui, are you awake? Professor? The professor rarely visited at this hour. Confused, Sully got up from the bed. I'm awake. What is it? Yui, what if I told you I could get you out of here? Huh? Sully gasped at the professor's words. What makes you say all that all of a sudden? I finally gained permission. Let's come to a decision now before the top brass change their mind. Lies, there's no way that's possible. Sully was shaken up by those unexpected words, but the professor spoke clearly. You're right, the upper brass naturally didn't approve of you leaving Labo. Understandable, if I spoke of Labo's internal state, it could jeopardize the facility's administration. So that's why I came up with one condition. We will fabricate Yui's memory and erase all her memories relating to the true state of Labo. In exchange, you'll be set free. That was the definite promise we agreed on. Sully was surprised for a second, but when she thought about it, her continued existence in Labo had long since lost its meaning. After losing her role as a test subject, Sully had apparently been treated as discarded. And as long as she had lost her memory of the facility, then even Labo would benefit from getting her out of here. Yui, answer me honestly. Do you want to leave here and be free? Sully did not understand why she answered the way she did at the time. Before this moment, not once had she ever held that hope, and yet, I do. Sully declared with distinct clarity. That was the first decision she'd ever made for herself in her 13 years of life. She chose her own future. Well said, Yui. I'll grant you freedom as well as a new role. The professor took Sully by the hand and out of the room. Another test subject will be performing the memory manipulation. Another test subject? Subject Y2? The professor nodded. Sully hadn't seen Subject Y2's face, but she had heard of her designation. There was a communicator subject called Subject Y2 in the room next to Sully's. The professor took Sully to that room and opened the door. Behind the door was a sweet-looking girl. Nice to meet you, Yui. I'm Yuri Katono. She's the communicator who will be performing the memory manipulation. It's a pity we have to say goodbye as soon as we're done, and you'll forget your memory of me. But I won't forget you. I'm sorry. Sully frantically tried to decipher Yuri's feelings as she gave that answer. Sully would be set free, Yuri would stay confined. That was unfair. So Sully thought that Yuri might be sad, but no need to apologize, okay? I'm really happy. Because I can set you free with my power. Why was she happy? Was she lying or telling the truth? Sully had no idea. But from the bottom of her heart, Sully wished for those words to be true. Soon the professor took medicine out of her pocket. Yui, take this medicine. What's this? It's a powerful sleep medication Labo often uses. Take this, and everything will be over while you're asleep. Once you wake up, you'll be living in the outside world as my distant relative. A legal identity had been prepared for you under the name of Louise Yui Sanamiya, a half-Japanese, half-French girl. Sanamiya? Sanamiya is my maiden name. Louise is a name that means renowned warrior. Not bad. The professor handed Sully the medicine. After a moment's hesitation, Sully swallowed it. It didn't take long before her head began to go hazy. Yui, lie down on my bed. Okay. Sully plopped onto the bed as told. She heard the professor and Yuri speaking. 13 years of memory is no trifling matter, I understand. I'll try. Their voice faded into the distance. Sully strained her eyes in an attempt to see Yuri's face clearly one last time, but her eyelids shut against her will. As her sight and her hearing sank into the darkness, Sully felt like she had heard the professor's voice. Good night, Yui. Your real life begins tomorrow. Sully smiled faintly at those words, and then she fell into a deep sleep. Sully felt as if she were rocking a cradle. She heard the sound of a car engine. And eventually she heard the professor's voice as well. Yui. Yui. We're here. I see. Once Sully answered, the car stopped. Let's get off now. As she got out of the car, a never-before-seen sight spread out before her eyes. A gentle breeze caressed Sully's cheek. The professor stood next to her and spoke. You slept well. I had a dream. A dream? Yes, a dream of when I was at home in France, those barren, ashen days. Nothing had happened, but it felt like a very sad dream. Don't worry, Yui. There's no need for you to return to that estate anymore. Starting today, you'll live here in Rokume City. Sully had heard her parents and the professor had held a decision. They concluded that Sully would temporarily be put under the custody of the professor and live in her hometown. I'm sorry that you have to live in an unfamiliar land, but I don't think you'll feel uncomfortable here. But there's something I have to do, isn't there? Good, you remembered. Of course, more importantly, I want you to go over my role again. Your role here is to protect my son, Natsuhiko Tenkawa. From what? From all kinds of malicious intent. Lately, this town's public order has been going bad. Thought it might still be better compared to how it was long in the past. What happened in the past? There were anti-BC demonstrations and anti-communicator persecution, even in a city like this. Afterwards, communicator residences were the target of direct destructive activity. And the targeted homes were partially destroyed and some people even died. Oh, but it looks like such a peaceful city. It took 16 years for it to get this far though. But not even the strongest fortification can guarantee perfect safety. This town has several hulls. As a rank S aptitude communicator, Natsuhiko is at a higher risk of danger than other communicators. But I cannot stay with him at all times, so I want you to protect Natsuhiko for me, Yui. Roger. Thank you. Now there's one key thing that you need to know. Due to childhood trauma, Natsuhiko keeps seeing a phantom of his childhood friend who died. Her name was Yuri Katono. Yuri Katono. For some reason, hearing that name made Sully feel nostalgic. Indeed, the professor had talked to her about this topic before. When you speak with Natsuhiko, he might suddenly bring up that girl's name. But don't touch on the subject, just gently leave it alone. I already understand the information concerning Yuri Katono. I intend to handle the subject with the utmost care. Yes, I have high expectations. The professor gently spoke. But Sully did not understand what those expectations actually were. She was extremely poor at judging what was on people's minds based on facial expression and tone of voice. I'm really anxious after all. I can't understand other people's minds or other forms of any worldly common sense. Can someone like me properly care for yourself? I thought you might say that, so I prepared a present for you. And with that, the professor took something out of the car trunk. It appeared to be a stuffed ferret or some other similar animal. A stuffed animal? Not just any stuffed animal. This is an atmosphere reading mascot system, or ARMS for short. Its featured functionality is to give you estimates of emotions based on facial expression, speech, and conduct. It should serve as an important guide to help you live in the outside world. And with that explanation, the professor handed the so-called arms device to Sally. A single thought ran through Sally's head as she looked over it carefully. Cute. The soft texture of its fur was pleasant to touch. She hadn't had any interest in such things before then, but for some reason she really took a liking to it. If you point Arm's eyes directly towards someone's face, it will automatically scan their facial expression. And if Arms cries happily, the person is happy. In addition to facial expressions, it's also able to analyze voices and behaviour. It's quite good at forming judgment. Arms cried when the professor said that. Cute. And cried happily, Professor. Does that mean you're happy right now? Yes, I'm happy because you seem to be happy too. Useful. That's great, looks like it's to your liking. The professor smiled and continued talking. Now then, there's a hotel nearby. You and I are staying there tonight. We're not going to your house, Professor? I think you might be bewildered at such a sudden change in environment, so let's acclimatise you gradually. And with that declaration, the professor took Sally by the hand and began walking. The two of them walked through town. Once she saw a crowd of people, larger than she'd ever seen back at home, Sally's body began to tremble. It's kind of scary. Professor, are we at the hotel yet? No, actually, I thought it'd be better to purchase some daily necessities for you at the shopping area first, so... Right as the professor said that, a voice echoed in Sally's head. Get away from there, Marshiro. There's gasoline. Sally gasped at the sudden yell. Professor, what was that? When Sally asked her that question, the professor's face froze. What was that? It couldn't be. Natsuhiko? The professor looked around in a panic. Have his abilities finally... No, more importantly... Professor? Not good, if the upper brass catches wind of this. The professor muttered to herself. She seemed to be so taken aback she didn't even hear Sally's words. Soon, the professor's PDA rang. She gasped and picked up. Yes, this is Hikawa. Yes, I just perceived it as well. That was probably Special Observation Target NA2's telepathy. What measures? No, that's too hasty. It was only telepathy, you know. According to the PRC criteria, the professor seemed to be arguing on the phone with someone. Sally waited there for a while, but the call continued for 10, then 20 minutes without any sign of stopping. Did some sort of problem happen? Sally didn't understand a thing. Once she'd grown bored of waiting, she eventually heard a crowd staring across the street. I wonder what it is. Sally walked in the direction of the commotion, making sure not to get too far from the professor. On the other side of the street, there was a car crashed into a streetlight. Apparently there was a motor vehicle accident. A fire engine could be seen approaching from the distance. And then, in the midst of the crowd of onlookers, Sally's eyes fell on someone. That boy is Dr. Tenkawa's son? That should have been the first time she saw him, yet for some reason he looked familiar. Had the professor shown her a picture from before? At that time, he too turned Sally's way. Their eyes met and locked. Pew pew, pew pew. And just then, Arm started violently squeaking like an alarm bell. Oh no, does he see me as hostile? Sally became frightened again, and quickly fled. When she got back to where the professor was, the phone call was just about over. Yes, understood. Then we'll go with that. The professor sighed and hung up. Once she noticed Sally, she spoke to her. Sorry about the wait. Finished with the phone? Looks like things are about to get busy, but I'm okay. Don't worry about me. Please don't mention that phone call just now to Natsuhiko when you meet him, okay? I don't understand, but okay. Thank you. Anyway, let's go to the hotel. I'll take care of the shopping later. The professor grasped Sally's hand and started walking again. Along the way, Sally asked the professor a question. By the way, Professor, back to what we were talking about. Huh? The matter about protecting your son? Why choose me for that role? Someone with your position and assets should be able to employ as many capable bodyguards as you'd like. So why just choose me? The professor quietly answered Sally's question. I want to give you a role. A role? Yes, a role. It's not just for my son's sake, it's for yours as well. Both Natsuhiko's mind and yours are lacking in some areas, but that's exactly why you can complete each other. I have high hopes for you, Yui. Hopes that you can give Natsuhiko what I cannot. Hopes that Natsuhiko can give you what I cannot. I don't understand. I know, but I'm sure one day you will. Once you've fulfilled your role, your void will be filled. The professor smoked with a smile. Sally didn't understand the professor's true intentions, but that one word resonated strongly with her mind. A role, huh? She didn't understand why she was so fascinated by something as boring as bodyguard work, but Sally was aware that it was something that she longed for. I'm not confident I can do it, but I'll try my best. Sally stayed in a hotel on her first day in Rokume City. There, she received an informative lecture on the usage of arms and various points of caution relating to her new life. The next morning, Dr. Tenkawa took her from the hotel to the school. The circumstances were unclear, but according to the professor, Rokume Academy was the only school that would admit Sally. It was a little disheartening to stand in front of the school. Dr. Tenkawa had accompanied her all the way to the school gate, but Sally was on her own from there on. I don't know if this will go well. As Sally nervously waited in front of the classroom, she was addressed by the homeroom room teacher who greeted her earlier. Indeed she is. Now then, Miss Sanamiya, please come in. Sally fired herself up and entered the classroom as instructed. Okay, go ahead and introduce yourself now. Louise Yui Sanamiya. And thus, she somehow managed to handle the hurdle of introducing herself. But Sally was afraid of the crowd of students in the classroom. And once homeroom entered... Hey, bonjour, Mademoiselle Louise? An energetic girl called out to her. The sudden voice startled Sally. It was Mashiro Toba. She said that she wanted to be Sally's friend. Really? I hope she's not plotting anything. Sally sank into a paranoia for a second before suddenly realizing something important. This girl seemed to be that friend of Natsuhiko's that the professor mentioned. Natsuhiko himself was nearby. In that case, Sally thought it would be best for her to make friends with him. Once Sally agreed to be their friend, Mashiro jumped for joy. Now then, what should we call you? Oh, I know, Sally, how's that? Well, I don't see why not. Actually, it's a rather beautiful nickname. Sally was pronounced like salut, which is French for hi. A salutation, the beginnings of communication. It's like an encouraging boost to my perseverance. I feel like my first contact with them went pretty well too. Sally was secretly full of joy, and thus began her new life. But the day's lessons ended before she really had any good opportunities to have a nice and slow conversation with them. After the PRC field trip, Sally had Dr. Tenkawa pick her up. She waited by the side of the building for a while, and eventually the professor's car approached and stopped. Good work today, Yui. Ah, Professor. How was your first day at school? I'm tired, but I did establish contact with Natsuhiko and Mashiro. Good, just as planned. Were you able to get along with them? Quite, we're already friends now. Cute? Suddenly Arms cried anxiously. Professor, you're feeling anxious? Why? No, that's just your imagination. Perhaps even Arms is capable of making a misjudgment. The professor didn't seem to have anything to be anxious about in any case. Anyway, starting from today, you'll be living at my house. Let's head over there. I'm fairly sure that not even their boy will object. Understood. But once they'd gone to the Tenkawa residence and reunited with Natsuhiko and Mashiro, Natsuhiko objected to Sally moving in. That's strange, nobody told me to expect this development. But I thought we were already friends. I haven't even touched on the phantom subject. But the professor quickly departed, leaving the confused Sally to her own devices. Is it a bother for me to live in this house? This isn't what the professor said would happen. She said you guys wouldn't object. Sally twitched in fear when she saw that expression on Natsuhiko's face. Even someone like me can understand that expression. Natsuhiko was mad, and Sally was feeling that she knew to whom that anger was directed. It can't be. Am I a nuisance? The thought saddened her. Then the happiness that she had finally gained had suddenly withered. In a desperate effort to open her heart to Natsuhiko, even just a little, she even tried talking to him about her role, but I was sent here to protect you after all. Huh? You? Protect me? Natsuhiko only stared blankly. He didn't seem happy at all. He really isn't accepting me. Why does he have to be so cruel to me? I've done nothing wrong. Sally couldn't understand a thing that was on Natsuhiko's mind. And thus, the first day of Sally's new life came to an anxious end. She was wondering if things could get worse from there, but Starting the next day, things took a turn for the better. She went shopping with Natsuhiko and Mashido, and opened her heart to them a little bit. And after Natsuhiko asked her about how they'd met at the scene of the accident 2 days prior, Sully gathered the courage to tell him about her weakness. To be honest, I'm very poor at understanding the nuances of people's emotions and facial expressions. It's thanks to this thing that I can finally communicate properly with people. And with that, she showed arms to Natsuhiko. That was why I was uneasy about adapting to a new life, but with arms I think I can somehow manage. So that's how it was. Natsuhiko fell sullen at Sully's words for a few moments before timidly speaking up. Say, Sully, what is it? Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for always acting so hostile towards you. It was still an awkwardly stilted conversation, but it didn't feel unpleasant at all. I've learned something. The key to good communication might be honesty. You should open up your heart and come in contact with others, even if they seem scary. That was an epiphany to Sully. And that night, Mashido threw a welcome party for Sully. Okay, thanks for waiting. Whoa. Magnificent. The food was very delicious, but above all else, it was Mashido's consideration that delighted Sully. She's gentle and she doesn't hide behind a mask. His speech and conduct match almost perfectly with Alice's judgment. Everything she says seems to be genuine. Even though Sully couldn't understand the minds of others, she felt like she could believe Mashido unconditionally. Afterwards, they all talked about novels and had a fun time. Once Mashido went home, Sully tried asking Natsuhiko a question. It looked to me like everyone had fun today. Did you have fun, Natsuhiko? Huh? Well, of course. Did you have a bad time, Sully? No. I had a lot of fun too. And Sully said that with a smile. Natsuhiko smiled back. If only days like this could continue forever. That's what Sully wished. But that peace did not last long. The next night, Natsuhiko and Mashido got into a fight, even though Sully had thought that they were getting along. I can't count on you for anything anymore, Natsuhiko. Goodbye. Hey, wait a second, Mashido. And then the next day, Sully herself got into a fight with Natsuhiko. If you don't believe Mashido, then why don't you just leave her alone? Hey, don't you think you're being a little too cold? You're not going to make any friends like that. Those words gouged out Sully's heart. She never expected one of her first friends ever to say that to her. But if I talk to him honestly, then maybe... Once she got that idea, Sully talked once more about her peculiar trait, about the dysfunctional part of her brain, and how as a result she couldn't understand other people's feelings in the slightest. I came to Japan, met all of you, and had fun, but at times I've also been confused and also scared. Perhaps I really wasn't meant to interact with other people. Sully spoke on the verge of tears, but Natsuhiko replied in a subdued voice. Don't tell yourself you weren't meant to interact with other people. It's true that we can't understand other people's feelings. When I say we can't understand other people's feelings, I don't just mean you and me, Sully. Nobody truly can. Huh? It's not just me, but everyone? That's right. But don't you think we should still try our best to understand each other regardless? You don't need a full understanding of what's on other people's minds, but as long as you keep striving for it, in other words, as long as you keep other people in consideration, then I'm sure things will turn out for the best, both for you and for those you interact with. And unless you afford that kindness to others, nobody will be kind to you, will they? Those words reverberated in Sully's mind. I see. If everyone's the same way, then I'm just wasting my time worrying about it alone. Perhaps Natsuhiko has the same sort of worries I do inside. He overcame those worries to say all that. Is that what it means to sympathize with someone? At the time, Sully felt that she gained at least a slight understanding of Natsuhiko's incomprehensible boyish mind. Then I need to respond by trying to sympathize with Natsuhiko too. Sully reconciled with Natsuhiko, and the two of them decided to search for Mashido together. Let's calm down and think about a way to find her. I'll help. Yeah. They regrouped with Mashido in front of the melancholic city gates. They searched for terrorists and trespassed into the PRC. And as a result of a misunderstanding there, they became the target for the security department. And thus they spent the night at a karaoke bar. Sully's life began to take a huge change. She couldn't recommend Natsuhiko and Mashido stepping into danger, but the corner of her mind, she enjoyed it. It's kind of like an adventure. It might possibly contradict my role, but I think I might like this sort of thing. The adventure continued the next day. After they encountered the PRC explosion, they realized that the enemy's real target was Labo's nuclear reactor. And they confronted the terrorists at the ruined factory. They suffered a temporary defeat, but once they woke up from being knocked out, the three kids talked. Natsuhiko decided to head to Labo to prevent the terrorist plot. And so Sally and Mashiro chose to cooperate with them as well. Jeez, how can you two be so stubborn? I don't want to hear it from you, Natsuhiko. The three of us just have the same idea in mind. Total agreement. And then the kids smiled at each other. They eventually sorted out their story. Okay then, ready guys? Roger. I'm ready to go when you are. Let's go, to protect the city. Sally nodded and broke off into a dash, alongside the two precious friends that fate had brought into her life, into his... Yeah? I think that was right. And thus, the three kids hurried to Labo to stop the terrorist plot. But by the time they got there, it was already too late. What? They missed the window of opportunity to stop the terrorist plot by just a short amount of time. After they had descended to the basement floors of the blazing building, they searched for an exit in Dr. Tenkawa. But along the way, they ran into the terrorists. Natsuhiko, Mashiro, run! Sally promptly yelled. Sally? I'll get rid of them. The other one's fainted, so I can manage one-on-one combat. Then let me help. No, Natsuhiko, you guys will only drag me down. I can't deal with a hostage situation if they get you. You guys go and find an exit. If you find one, contact me through telepathy. Sally would judge that to be the most logical course of action. But after Natsuhiko and Mashiro had fled, and Sally would knock down the two terrorists, a new terrorist appeared. Sally immediately drop-kicked him, but the force of the impact nearly shattered the enemy's faceplate. The third terrorist threw off his protection suit and spoke. You again, huh? So we meet again. He was the man who had knocked Sally out last night in the ruined factory. Just a word of warning, get out. Or the bulkheads will shut and trap your ass in here. The fires will get worse, and you get even burned to death. Seems to me like you're trying to thwart our plan out of some childish sense of justice, but what good is fighting me if it means putting your body in such extreme danger? Now he mentioned it, what would be the purpose of fighting this man? That was already well beyond the scope of Sally's role. Why am I going so far to... Her thoughts were interrupted by a gunshot. Her arm felt like it was on fire. Crap! When Sally turned around in shock, she spotted one of the terrorists that she had flung away, pointing his gun at her. Dumbass! The hell are you doing shooting at a child? The hell are you doing? There's no time to be standing around, is there? The terrorists started quarreling. Sally took that opportunity to get out of there. I can't win against guns, I need a weapon of my own. With that thought in mind, she searched for Natsuhiko and Mashiro. They found each other at opposite sides of a wrecked emergency staircase. Sally spoke as the two worried about her. The enemy has exceptional physical strength and unknown numbers. Our odds don't look good. Okay, Sally, then come down here. Let's escape together. No, I can't climb down with this arm. I think it'd be difficult for you guys to climb up too. So let's split up and escape separately. No, will you be okay by yourself, Sally? I will, but there's no time to speak my reasoning. So let's use BC. Sally said that, hoping they would use empathy on it. She calmed down her mind and thought of the message she wanted to send them. I finally found life interesting for once. I don't want it to end like this. I truly enjoyed these past 6 days. These are my true feelings, what I've always wanted to tell you all. Even though Sally was by no means an eloquent speaker, she was able to express herself honestly to use pure emotion. It appeared that they'd received her message. Okay, leave these two to me. Promise me one more thing, that we'll all live long enough to meet again on the outside. Promise. And on that note, Sally left. Blood seeped endlessly from the wound on her upper arm. My brachial veins damaged. I need to treat it immediately. She set a trap along the connecting passageway to prevent the terrorists from chasing after her. And in the area at the end of the passageway, she acquired a security card, a disaster prevention manual, and finally a stapler. I could do temporary first aid with this. Luckily, the bullet had pierced all the way through. Sully took the stapler to the gunshot wound in her arm and stitched it up. She stifled her voice and treated the exit wound as well. She sank to the floor, breathing roughly. For now, she had averted a medical emergency. Now, what do I do from here? The terrorist's words echoed in her head. Just a word of warning. Get out. What good is fighting me if it puts your body in such extreme danger? She very well could do what he'd said and run away. But if the terrorist's goal was to destroy the town in its entirety with a nuclear meltdown, then running away was pretty much pointless. I can't just run away. If we don't prevent the meltdown, if we don't stop them, the city would be destroyed. Atomic dust would rain on Natsuhiko, Mashiro, Dr. Tenkawa, and everyone else. There's only one way to stop it. I won't run. What I need to do now is not to run, but to fight. To defeat the terrorists and put an end to their plan. Because my role is to protect Natsuhiko and the others. A faint smile rose to Sully's lips. With courage welling in her heart, she began to walk once more. Natsuhiko and Yuri returned to reality. Hikita? Sully? Are you okay? Yuri's voice felt so far away. Natsuhiko just gritted his teeth without answering. Sully had the toughest past out of all of us. Everything he saw in Sully's memory wrenched Natsuhiko's heart. And right in front of him, Sully cried. I probably would have been happier not knowing that. I'm sorry. Natsuhiko regretted his decision. He should have followed Yuri's advice. But Sully quickly shook her head and continued speaking. No need to apologize. It's probably still better for me to know than to have not known a thing. We can think about everything later, right, Natsuhiko? Sully smiled through her tears. With a facial expression that closely resembled the one Dr. Tenkawa used in Sully's memory. Even if my life was ashen, the memories of these last few days filled it with colour. As long as I have those memories, I can overcome any past. In response, Natsuhiko gently grasped Sully's hand and spoke. It won't end with these last few days. I'm sure there are tons of great things to come. Because we're always with you. Sully said nothing. She just silently grasped Natsuhiko's hand back. Yuri laid her hand on top of theirs and spoke. Let's get everyone out of here. Together. Let's go back to that home with Mashiro, the four of us. Sully nodded, wiping her tears. Natsuhiko nodded and murmured. Well, all that's left is to get Miss Tachibana back and then we can get out of here. Yeah, but Security Sector 6 might be waiting outside. Huh? Nearly 10 hours have already passed since the bulkhead's locked down, which means Labo must already be taking measures to ensure the test subjects don't escape. Security Sector 6 has us marked. Once the bulkhead's open, Security Sector 6 will capture you and confine you again. Now that she mentioned it, nobody inside knew what the situation was on the outside. It really makes you want to know what's going on out there. Is there anyone we can contact via BC? I'm sure there's a lot of people outside, but I don't know if there's anyone we can trust. Watase's boss, the commander, might have been trustworthy, but he wouldn't know the kids. Besides, they didn't know his characteristic brainwave form, so they couldn't send him directional telepathy. I don't know much about BC, but could he contact Dr. Tenkawa? That's right, Mum! They certainly could trust Dr. Tenkawa, and the possibility that she was on alert outside Labo was high. But Yuri shook her head. I thought so too, so I tried contacting her several times as soon as we were locked in, but I couldn't connect. Is it because of the bulkheads? Maybe. I was thinking that maybe we could contact the outside with the WX particle energy in this WX particle energy this high though. It seems worth another shot. Natsuhiko concentrated his mind. Mum, can you hear me? It's me, Natsuhiko. He then tried using empathy. No response. If you can hear me, please focus on your answer. I'll listen for it with empathy. You might already know this, but I've awoken to my BC ability. He tried using empathy again. No response. Mum, we need your help. If you can hear me, please help us escape. He tried using empathy once more. And on the third attempt... Natsuhiko? Natsuhiko, is that you? The professor's voice echoed in his head. Mum, so you really are there? I am. Ah, it's really you, Natsuhiko. I was so worried, I thought my heart was going to burst. Yes, it worked. Natsuhiko gave Yuri and Salyu an OK sign and continued communicating with the professor. Mum, it seems Yuri hasn't been able to contact you all day. Did something happen? I got caught in an explosion immediately following the start of the terrorist attack, so I received treatment in the hospital. I just got back about 2 hours ago. Right now. The professor's voice abruptly cut off. Mum? I can't hear you. Yeah, how's this? I can hear you now. What's going on? I tried putting my head to the floor. Looks like we can connect better that way. You might already know this, but the floors and bulkheads separating the basement from the ground levels are constructed with thick BC insulators. We seem to be able to connect since the WX particle energy levels are high, but if they drop past a certain threshold, the connection will be rendered impossible once more. That meant that even though they'd finally connected, there was a high possibility that they'd lose contact soon enough. The professor hurriedly asked Natsuhiko a question. We don't have time. Answer me, Natsuhiko. How's the situation over there? Ah, right. Natsuhiko summarized the situation. How the current incident was a terrorist attack by Q. And Natsuhiko and Masato were heavily injured. How the conditions inside had gone insane due to the influence of Subject N's malice. But in spite of the severe situation, the survivors were slowly gathering and formulating a plan to escape. So Mum, tell me about the situation outside too. How's it going on your side? Will we be able to escape once the bulkhead's open? The professor painfully answered. Escape will probably be difficult. Security Sector 6 is on standby outside. I knew it. Labo's top brass wants to make sure that this whole thing never happened. They're preparing to rush inside once the case end lifts. The main power supply cut a few hours ago, didn't it? Yeah. They anticipated that if they cut the main power at the time, then the reserve power supply would fail right about when the bulkheads open, leaving the facility in total darkness. Security Sector 6 suspects that this event is a Q terrorist attack. They intend to arm themselves with guns and cut the lights so that once the bulkheads open, they can secure all of you. Then if you use our BC to oppose them, you can't. They're administering themselves with AD, and they're wearing anti-BC suits made with insulators. Your BC won't be effective. What? It seemed that the opening of the bulkheads, their light at the end of the tunnel, would still not allow them to escape. In just an hour, Security Sector 6 would rush in on them, even though the survivors had yet to gather everyone. Is there no way to delay the opening of the bulkheads? I'm sorry, it's impossible. When the KSN and WX particle amplifier malfunction happened at the same time, all of the bulkheads automatically shut. But once the WX particle energy levels in Area N return to normal, the bulkheads will open up no matter what. It's impossible to do anything about it on the outside. I see. Natsuhiko was discouraged, but then he suddenly realized something. There's no point delaying the opening of the bulkheads in the first place. The bomb Watase's group set in Area 0 was set to go off a minute after the bulkheads opened. They were given the option of dying in the explosion if they stayed inside or facing Security Sector 6 if they went outside. There's no way to escape. Then should we go down to Area 0 and disarm the bomb? But it was impossible to go down to Area 0 now. When Watase's group broke into there, they needed the retina authentication of 2 high-ranking researchers. Mum, is there any way to get down to Area 0 without a retina authentication? There is one way, but it's a last resort. What? I had something prepared for a long time, now it's a trump card, for Yuri and the others. Hacking software to steal root authority from Braincell. Hacking software? It's a program I put together. With it, you can operate Braincell and freely use any of the facility's functions. It grants you the highest level of authority, allowing you to negate the security on any area. Mum, why would you have such a thing? But at that moment, Natsuhiko recalled what he'd heard in Yuri's memory. I will gladly do whatever I can to get you out of here, even if it costs me my life. Huh? Truth be told, I've been secretly advancing preparations for such a plan. It's not something I can do alone, so it'll be a difficult journey, but one day for sure. But was that what she was referring to? Mum, where's the program? It's in the lowest shelf, furthest back inside my office. The hardware is an ARMS unit, identical to the one Yui has. The shelf is locked, but you can just break it open. It works by plugging Braincell into that ARMS unit. The software will then activate automatically, bringing up the authentication screen on Braincell's 3 control terminals. If you use those authentication screens, you can steal root authority. I see. That's easy enough to understand. But there are two things to note. First, Brain Cell consists of 3 control systems that observe each other. You must operate those 3 control terminals at the same time. One person alone cannot operate it. 3 people are necessary to steal root authority, remember that. Yeah, we can manage it if it's 3 people. I got Yuri and Sully with me anyway. Good. Then there's one more thing to note. Even if you steal root authority illegitimately, the system will reclaim it immediately. Ukita said something to that effect once before. The use of the hacking software would apparently not make a difference in hacking attempts. The software can only steal root authority for about 30 seconds. Try to use that time to negate Area 0 security. Okay, got it. So in other words, to get down to Area 0, 3 of them had to steal root authority from Brain Cell in the control room and negate Area 0 security. And then they had to send Watase or someone else to go down and disarm the bomb. It's a do or die plan, but we got no other choice. Thanks, Mum. We'll try. Do your best, Natsuhiko. I'll do as much as I can in the meantime. What are you gonna do? I'll try to find a way to clear through Security Sector 6's siege before the bulkheads open. Can you? Neither Labo nor Security Sector 6 would side with you, would they? But the rescue squad people at least aren't in the pockets of Rokume city government. The fire department's an independent organisation. So I might be able to persuade the rescue squad. Wait, are you sure you'll be fine? Wouldn't that put you under the eye of the city government too? It's okay, it's only fitting punishment for my crimes. Huh? Natsuhiko, you see, somewhere in the back of my mind I was waiting for this day to come. I've been passively watching Labo's decay for all this time. So this might be a good opportunity for me to... The professor's voice cut off there. Mum, I can't hear you. No, it looks like the energy levels finally reached its... And while I still have the chance... In an instant, the professor's thoughts cranked out at high speed to send a message. I don't know if I can succeed, but I know I will try. I will try as hard as I can for you all. You and all the children confined in Labo are precious to me. You're more important to me than anyone. You're my children. I love you, Natsuhiko, I swear. Outside... Mum? Mum? Natsuhiko called out to the professor. But that was the definite end to their conversation. Mum, no, that's crazy. Yuri and Sully's gasped at that utterance. What's happening to the professor? Crazy? What's happening outside? Security Sector 6 has the place surrounded. Your Mum's opposing them to try and clear a path for us. Even though she might be killed for that? It was a very real possibility, and not just paranoia. His mother probably thought the same thing, which is why she hadn't taken any action before today. But Yuri... I'm sure the professor will do it. Huh? Let me ask you something, Hikiden. Why do you think the professor worked so hard at her research and necessitate staying overnight at Labo almost every day? One subject of her research was to increase the lifespan of communicators. What? The reason for the shortness of communicators' lifespan is their high susceptibility to cancer and brain disease. But the professor spent all her days trying to find a way to inhibit those 2 causes of death. She called in gene therapy experts as external guests for joint research. She worked herself to the bone to extend our lives. Nearly 10 whole years. Natsuhiko's heart throbbed in pain. He recalled the words the professor had said when they'd met just yesterday. It was all for you. I'm trying my hardest, just for you. What do you mean, Mum? Does it have anything to do with what's going on now? Not at all. Though I do think one day the time will come that we can talk about it. I'm such an asshole. I knew nothing, and yet I went off on a tirade and hurt my own mother. Natsuhiko finally understood the meaning of his mother's tears. The professor could not reveal her true intentions to even her own son. But doing so would be the same as condemning him to a deadly fate. Therefore, she had kept everything sealed away in her heart and dedicated her entire life to research, to save Natsuhiko and the others. As Natsuhiko froze in shock, Yuri gently whispered to him. Hikiden, don't blame yourself so much. The professor said it wasn't your fault. She admitted it was true that she'd left her son all alone. But well, you see, the professor really treasures you, Hikiden. Throughout her research on lifespan extension, it appears she found something that could possibly inhibit our susceptibility to cancer. Huh? The professor's 10 years of devotion may very well pay off with the extension of all communicator lifespans. There's no mum more amazing than that. You're right. Intense regret pressed down on Natsuhiko's heart. But he withstood it. Now's not the time to wallow in regret. Now is the time to protect the lives his mother risked to connect. Their own lives. To escape alive and apologize to her. Hikarin, let's go see the professor, our mum. Natsuhiko strongly nodded at those words. Then first, we need to regroup with Watase and the others. Yes, it's about time we return to the shelter. Yeah, I'll go check on his current location. And with that, Natsuhiko tried using sense sympathy on Watase. But connecting with Watase had become difficult as well. Natsuhiko intensified his concentration and used his ability. Watase, where are you right now? Eventually he seemed to just narrowly establish a connection, but... At that instant, Watase's intense agony propagated to Natsuhiko. Chapter 5. 1 hour and 3 minutes until lockdown is lifted. I have no idea how long this episode's going to be, by the way. The rope wrapped around his neck was digging into his throat. Kazami pulled with all her strength put all her strength into the grip as she strangled Watase from behind. She'd apparently taken the rescue rope Watase left in Area 6's inner ring and brought it with her. All for the sake of killing Watase. It hurts, doesn't it? Then I'll put you to rest soon. Kazami's voice sounded pained. Though Watase was barely conscious, he was still able to make that out. Why? What does Kazami think I did to her? Kazami then spoke right after Watase had that thought. It was almost like she read his mind. You don't understand? I'm doing this all for you. He could never understand. Kazami's deranged thoughts were beyond Watase's comprehension. When he realized he was about to die without understanding a thing, Watase heard a voice in the corner of his mind. Say, an auditory hallucination? No, that wasn't it. Watase, what? Wrong, you okay? It was telepathy from Natsuhiko. His voice was faint due to all the white noise filtering it out, but Watase could just barely make out his concerned shouts. Natsuhiko! Chibana? This Tachibana's trying to kill... Yeah. Hang in, Professor Tsubakiyama and Jin. Be there soon. Watase tried to hold out for them, but it didn't look like they'd make it in time. I'm sorry. Watase mentally apologized to him. It looks like this is the end of the line for me. What? What are you apologizing for? Are you giving up? No, but I really don't think I can hold out anymore. Everything's going black. Enough with that shit. It'd be a huge pain in the ass for you to die. Sorry, but you'll need to find another pawn. But when Watase thought that, he heard another voice. Captain? This was no mental voice. This was actually coming from a person's throat. Kazami's strength loosened at that moment. Watase could make out Jin and Ena in the corner of his eye. They were about 5 meters away from him and Kazami. Stop it, Miss Tachibana. Ena took out her gun and pointed at Kazami. Oh, a gun, huh? So you're in league with Watase too. It doesn't matter if I am or not. Just let go of Captain Kasasagi already, or else I'll shoot. Then please go on ahead. I'll put Watase's life an end to Watase's life before you do. What? So as long as you don't shoot me in the head, I'll have cut off his breathing before I die. What are you talking about, sis? What, you ask? Isn't it obvious? I'm saying I'm going to kill Watase. What? That can't be. Why? In order to protect his good name. Kazami answered Jin's question. You see, Jin, this man is a terrorist. Huh? It's his fault those people died today. The one who killed those 5 people was none other than Watase. He was supposed to be a hero, and yet he... So that's it. Watase finally understood what Kazami had been talking about. He managed to bring his voice out of his nearly crushed throat. Kazami, realized that I was a terrorist. So you're trying to kill me before my crimes can come to light? Yes. Didn't I say that from the start that there were no terrorists? That's the way it should be. You will die as not a terrorist, but a rescue worker. Watase Kasasagi, captain of Sirius Team A, passed away in the line of duty in an accident at Labo. That is the truth that will be revealed to the world once the lockdown ends. So in order to prevent your sins from being revealed, you must die here. A faint thought entered Watase's head when he heard Kazami finish rambling to herself. Yeah, maybe that wouldn't be so bad either. That way, at least he wouldn't sully the good name of Sirius. That way, the truth about Dojima and Hiyama would most likely be lost to the world. Then the following story would be printed on tomorrow's paper. 3 rescue workers killed on duty in a nuclear research facility accident. These brave men died honorably to save the lives of trapped civilians. People would then accept these distorted facts as the truth. Just like how they all lied about the truth behind the fire 16 years ago. Then there'd be no problems for anyone aside from those directly involved. Maybe it's the perfect way for me to atone for my sins. If that's what Kazami wants too, then... But at that moment... The hell are you saying, dumbass? Are you planning to break your promise to Yuri? Those words spurred Watase back into action. Kazami! Kazami's hands trembled the moment Watase shouted. This caused her to slightly loosen her grip on the rope, allowing Watase to pull on it with all his might. Jin dashed forward at the same time. She took her army knife out and cut the rope. Watase coughed violently, feeling all the pressure on his throat suddenly relent. Yes! Jin shouted in victory, but Kazami let go of the rope at the exact same time. Don't interfere, and pushed Jin away with all his strength. Jin's small body was sent flying hard into the wall. She then slowly collapsed to the floor. A crack then sharply echoed through the air. Watase and Kazami looked at Ina in shock. Ina had apparently fired a bullet towards Kazami's feet. That's your last warning shot. Hesitation rose to Kazami's face for a second. She then picked up Subject N's body and ran off. Hold it! Ina moved to pursue Kazami, but Watase immediately called for her to stop. Teach, don't. Huh? You don't have to follow her, it's too dangerous to chase her alone. But Captain Kasasagi, that's enough. You should be worried about Mortabe now. Watase looked over at Jin. She was lying out limply on the floor. She'd apparently hit her head. Let's just take Mortabe with us and regroup with the others. It'll be better for us to stay in a group. Ina fell silent at the same time they heard Kazami running for Area 1. After a short silence, Watase heard Natsuhiko's telepathy echo in his head. Say, are you okay? Yeah, somehow. I've also firmed the situation. I see, Kazami's been completely consumed by the malice. How are things on your end? We met up with Sally. Wasn't infected with... Regrouped in the control room and figure out what to do. The control room, got it. I'll be heading over there with Teach and Mortabe. Watase finished answering him and then turned to Ina. Let's go, Teach. We'll rendezvous with Natsuhiko and the others in the control room. Yes. Ina finally nodded. Watase then carried Jin on his back and started making his way for Area 4. After seeing the circumstances through static-filled vision, Natsuhiko returned to his own body and took a deep breath. I contacted Watase and the others. I told them to regroup in the control room. The control room? It seems we can steal Brain Cell's root authority with the hacking software Mum prepared. So once we retrieve that software, we'll gather with everyone in the control room. Fine by me, but... Isn't that Watase man our enemy? He's an ally now. Sally, I know you might not be able to forgive him, but could you promise not to attack him just for now? We need his cooperation to get everyone out of here. Understood. I'll do as you say, Natsuhiko. Thanks, Sally. And after saying that, Natsuhiko then used Sense Sympathy on Ukita. His connection with Ukita was plagued with noise as well. Natsuhiko mustered all his strength to sense telepathy to Ukita. Mr. Ukita, can you hear me? Huh? Can you manage... hear you... What happened? With the exception of Miss Tachibana, everyone's malice has been erased. Let's regroup at the control room for now. The shelter's no longer safe with its door broken, so please take Masato with you. Masato was sleeping in the shelter under Rukita's protection. Rukita responded with a strained voice. Control room? Right. Roger that. It appears it managed to get through to him. Natsuki returned to his body once more and reported to Yuri and Sally. I told Mr. Rukita to bring Masato with him to the control room. We'll head to Mum's office first and bring the hacking software to the control room. Understood. Then I'll carry on my back again. Hurry. Right. There was no time to be embarrassed about appearances, so Natsuhiko did as Sally said. And thus they went to Area 5 and headed with Miyoko Tenkawa's office. They searched inside the room. Mum said it was on the lowest shelf, furthest back in the room. And it was locked, just as she had said. Natsuhiko, out of the way. Huh? Oh. Sally kicked the cabinet door open, and then a stuffed animal-shaped device tumbled out. Huh? Alice? No, it's an arms unit that's the same model as Alice. Wait, now that you mention it, what happened to Alice? I didn't want to break her, so I hid her in the girls' restroom in Area 4. I see, that way Watase couldn't find her, huh? In that case, I'll take this arms unit, Alice number 2, with me then. Yeah, let's hurry to the control room. But right as Natsuhiko said that, and they were about to leave the room, a note posted on the wall suddenly caught Natsuhiko's attention. Information Fueled Self-Awareness Development Experiment. Hey, Yuri, was Mum trying to run some sort of experiment this morning? Huh? Oh, yeah. I had to take a health exam early this morning because of that experiment. Is that so? Then what exactly is this Informational Field Self-Awareness Development Experiment about? It's hard to explain, but put simply, it's an experiment to create a spirit. To create a spirit? For some reason, Natsuhiko got horribly caught up on those words. He knew this wasn't exactly the time to talk about it, but he couldn't help but ask questions. Create a spirit? What does that mean? What's Mum trying to do here? Hold on, Natsuhiko. Is that something you need to know right now? I don't know, but it kind of bothers me. I'm sorry. Yuri. But could you give me a rough explanation for me, please? Okay, I'll explain. Yuri quickly began to explain. Well, first of all, this is second-hand information from the professor, but this world is filled with BC particles. And of course, even the human brain is filled with high-energy BC particles. Intracerebral BC particles affect the brain and are affected by the brain. They have no substance, but they certainly exist. Doesn't that sound similar to something often talked about in the past? Consciousness? No, the spirit. Yes, the professor thought that if what we call the spirit were to actually exist, it might consist of the BC particles that fill the brain. That sentiment closely resembled the things that Subject N inside of Watase and Akita had said. Then let's say that you were able to create a lump of high-energy BC particles outside of the brain. Would that make a spirit? Would it indeed? That was the purpose of today's experiment. The experimental procedure was to use the WX particle amplifier to create a roughly 500 microsievert WX particle field in Area N. But WX particles are merely lumps of energy without any sort of information, an empty spirit, so to speak. But afterwards I was to enter Area N and continue using BC for several hours. BC on whom? Nobody, just untargeted telepathy. Why do that? Basically, this is what the professor wanted to test. If I took all my intracerebral information energy and emitted it outside my brain with BC, would that create a copy of my spirit? Something like an electric current ran down Natsuhiko's spine as he heard that question. He felt as if there was some sort of truth he'd never realized hidden within Yuri's words. So, were you able to make a spirit then? I don't think so. This incident happened before the experiment could start, so... Before Yuri could finish, a voice abruptly echoed inside Natsuhiko's head. Stop. Huh? Natsuhiko gasped. Stop? What? Yuri and Sally both opened their eyes and looked at Natsuhiko. Hikiden, did you use telepathy just now? No, I didn't. That's right, Natsuhiko didn't use telepathy at all. And yet all three of them heard that voice. A voice that clearly sounded like Natsuhiko's telepathy. No, that's not all that's strange. Why would I hear my own telepathy? The moment that thought crossed his mind, the voice echoed once more. I'll wreck your brain. Wreck it, wreck it, wreck it, wreck it. It was the telepathy intense enough to shake their very minds. What is this? What's going on? As he screamed, Natsuhiko suddenly remembered. He had fired out that telepathy before. It was from back when he ran away with Mashido in his arms and Watase attacked him. Natsuhiko had fired intense telepathy in order to freeze Watase in his tracks. Stop! That was the telepathy from back then. Why are we hearing it now? For a moment he had no idea what was going on, but then he remembered one of Enna's lectures. BC energy created by telepathy starts decaying after it's sent, but it's not like it fades to zero immediately. So in other words, with or without a target, extraordinarily strong BC can remain in a place for a while. My telepathy is lingering? Huh? Is that voice telepathy you used before? Yeah, I don't know why, but it looks like it's come back. Maybe the information energy stayed around. It's a rare occurrence, but it does before Yuri could finish. Another Yuri appeared in the middle of the room. Huh? There's another me. What? It was a somewhat blurry, surreal visage. A phantom? With Natsuhiko at a loss for words, the phantom Yuri spoke. I'm sorry for deceiving you for so long, but I'm sure you'll be okay without me. You've noticed these past few days, haven't you? You're not alone, Hikaru. Those words jogged Natsuhiko's memory. This is from the time Yuri's phantom disappeared. Now my telepathy's come back? That was telepathy Yuri had used a few hours ago to separate Natsuhiko from the phantom. It was high-grade telepathy that worked not only to cause an auditory hallucination, but a visual one as well. And as soon as they realized what had happened, the phantom disappeared. The kids murmured in dumbfounded shock. Why did that happen over and over? I wonder why. Perhaps it's because we've used BC repeatedly in a WX particle-rich environment. Such an environment would indeed make it easy for information energy to linger. I see, hopefully that's all it was. As long as you know the cause, it doesn't really matter. There are more important issues at hand. We should finish the idle chatter and continue moving forward. You're right. Indeed, they couldn't just stand there forever. The three kids took Alice number 2 with them as they headed toward the control room. Meanwhile, Watase carried Jin as he headed for the control room with Enna. You sure she isn't heavy, Captain Kasasagi? Yeah, no problems. Though if we were to be honest, his body was so exhausted that it was taking genuine effort to carry her. His leg was also still in pain from being kicked by Saleh, but he did his best to endure it. I deserve at least this much pain anyway. Just when Watase thought that, he heard Jin groaning behind him. The sound of Watase and Enna's voices seemed to have awoken her. You're awake? Captain? Wait, you're carrying me? Yeah, I had to after you lost consciousness back there. I see. We're meeting up with the others in the control room now. We'll be there soon, so I'll keep on carrying you the rest of the way. Okay, sure. Jin hesitated for a moment, but decided to go along with what he said. The three of them continued travelling for a while in silence. Jin eventually broke the ice. I just had a dream. You dreamt? You mean when you were passed out? Well, I don't know, really. Maybe it was a little earlier than that. Jin said that uncertainly. Watase was still curious, but he decided to ask a different question. What was the dream about? It was from when I was a kid. I dreamed of a day 9 years ago when I got caught up in a gas explosion accident in the Rokume municipal apartment complex and I was saved by a rescue worker. Watase gasped when he heard that. Wait, you mean... Hey, Captain, now I finally figured it out. You were the hero who rescued me back then, weren't you? Don't you remember? You carried me out of that room and got me to safety. Watase silently nodded in response to Jin's whispers. Yeah, I do. I recognized you as soon as I saw your face when you first assigned to my team. Why didn't you say anything? How could I? I'm no longer the hero you think I am. That's not true. Jin then spoke to Watase as if to break herself free of her sorrow. You worked your hardest to save everyone's lives, didn't you? You're still the hero I admired, even now. Watase couldn't nod to that declaration. A hero? Me? Jin had no idea what was to come. That Watase planned on going back to queue with Yuri and Taro once they got out of there. If I don't, Watase didn't speak any further, nor did Jin or Ena. In the end, the silence between them all remained unbroken, and they made their way out of the connecting passageway. Once Natsuhiko's group made it to the control room, they found Ukita and Mashido already there. Mashido. Sally rushed up to Mashido as soon as she saw her. Mashido, how could this happen? Sally looked at Mashido tearfully. Apparently her blood transfusion was over since the kid had been disconnected, but Mashido was still unconscious. Sally's calls were left unanswered. Who did this to Mashido? Well... As Natsuhiko stumbled with his words, Watase, Ena, and Jin arrived. Watase let Jin down and spoke. Natsuhiko. For some reason Natsuhiko couldn't say a word, but before things went completely silent, Yuri spoke up. So 8 of us have been gathered now. Yes, so Miss Tachibana's the only... Sully interrupted Ena. Wait. I honestly don't understand anything that's going on. Someone explain. Anyone. Why is Mashido so heavily injured? Who exactly are you, Ena? Why'd you close your heart to us? Ukita, you were the insider, weren't you? Jin, are you an upstanding rescue worker or another terrorist? And you, Watase. Sully glared at him. You're a terrorist beyond a shadow of a doubt, but... Were you the one who hurt Mashido? If so, then I definitely cannot forgive you. Sully's stifled voice echoed in the quiet room. Whoa, calm down, Sully. Calm down? How do you expect me to calm down? Answer me, Watase, what have you done today? Watase sunk into silence with a bitter look on his face. Crap, I knew this would happen. He understood how Sully felt, but they couldn't afford to waste time here. It'll take way too much time to explain everything from the beginning. But can we get it to understand with just a rough explanation? As Natsuhiko hesitated, Watase softly started to speak. Sully, you're exactly right. Watase, don't. Watase ignored Natsuhiko's warnings and continued. I wounded that girl. Regardless of the circumstances, the truth stands that I shot her. I'm sorry. For a second, Natsuhiko thought he saw an intense killing intent emanate from Sully's small body. Unforgivable. Everyone immediately started trying to hold Sully back. Stop it, Miss Sanemiya. There were circumstances beyond his control. That's right, Louise. True, this man may be a terrorist, but on the other hand... Shut up. To hell with your circumstances. I'll never forget this man. Sully shouted and started hitting Watase. Sully's fist sank into Watase's face, her leg into his stomach. Watase gave no resistance and allowed Sully to keep hitting him. Ena frantically held Sully back and Yuri screamed bitterly. Please stop. Captain Kasasagi only shot Mashido because of BC. He was infected with malice because... Shut up, shut up, shut up! Nobody can stop Sully. Natsuhiko thought desperately. Is there nothing we can do to get Sully to understand? Some way to get her to see the whole story of what happened today? But most of what happened was beyond describing. The reason why Watase became a terrorist. What Yuri felt these past 9 years in confinement. What Mashido felt these past 9 years watching over Natsuhiko. What actions brought Jin, Ena, and Ukita here to this moment. It's impossible to explain it all. Words alone could not truly convey their feelings. But the moment that thought crossed Natsuhiko's mind, he recalled a word Yuri had said just a moment ago. BC. That's it, with BC we can convey all the feelings that words alone cannot. To everyone here. Natsuhiko took that flash of inspiration and concentrated on it. He recalled what he had heard in class. BC isn't limited to conveying voices and emotions. Theoretically, it can convey sight and other senses as well. It can even convey a large amount of information instantaneously. That's it, the opposite of sense sympathy. I'll do the reverse of reading memories. I'll convey my memories to everyone else. That determination roused Natsuhiko's memory. His sharpened concentration caused his senses to fade. Every sight he saw and sound he heard up until now came forth from the back of his mind. Salu. Sully gasped and turned around. And during that fleeting, ever so short moment, Salu, everyone, behold! These are the routes that brought all 8 of us here. Natsuhiko put all his strength into using BC. Just then, His brain loaded its information onto the BC particles and released them into the world. Without Natsuhiko confirming any characteristic brain waveforms, the non-directional BC, the untargeted telepathy, reached everyone's brains. The memories depicted in Natsuhiko's brain everyone's minds connected and experienced the same things, through the same perspectives and same senses. Watase's past, Yudi's feelings, Mashido's history, and everyone else's. And everyone's personal experience of today. Watase's terrorist plot and its failure, the existence of Subject N and her malice. The bomb's time limit, Kazami's current status. All of that information rose up in the span of a split second and then... vanished. Did I get through to everyone? Natsuhiko eased off his concentration, his senses returned. And before his eyes, he saw Sally and the others standing stock still in shock. That was... Captain Kasasagi's past. They muttered with hollow voices. No, not just his. Yudi's memories and Natsuhiko's memories and more. Did I do it? Natsuhiko turned to look at Sally with bated breath. She spoke with a shamed look on her face. Not fair. Not fair? I don't understand the minds of others, and yet, for the first time, I understood people's feelings. Even that man, Watase's. Sally glared at Watase. I understand you now, but just a little bit. How you grieve over Wataru's death, how you harbored rage towards Labo, and why you became a terrorist. And the truth of how, after Natsuhiko erased your memories, you exerted all your effort into saving everyone. I still don't feel like forgiving you, but just for now I'll hold off on hitting you. Natsuhiko clenched his fist firmly at those words. Thank you. Watase spoke with genuine regret. Natsuhiko whispered to Sally. Thanks, Sally. Sally nodded ambiguously. Natsuhiko shared the knowledge he had with everyone in the room. Though it was not as if he could convey everything with BC. Even though he went this far, it would probably still lead to some deficiencies in understanding, but I'm sure everyone's coming to terms with each other at least a little. That was what he'd hoped. Even if they couldn't understand each other, they could at least come to terms with each other. Everyone's tense expression softened ever so slightly. Sally, Captain Kasasagi... Oh shit, sorry. But you know, it was also Captain Kasasagi that rescued her when she fainted and treated her. I know. Sally switched her gaze to Mashido. If it weren't for that, then I really wouldn't have been able to forgive. Natsuhiko looked at Mashido too, and then he noticed something. Her eyes were slowly opening. Mashido? Natsuhiko? Mashido, you're awake? Mashido nodded groggily and quietly stood up. Sally, Miss Ina, guys. I saw that whole thing just now too. I saw what happened while I was unconscious and everyone's pasts too. Mashido then looked at Yuri. And everything that happened to you these past 9 years, Yuri. Mashido? When Yuri said her name, tears spilled from Mashido's eyes. Yuri. Mashido hugged Yuri. You're alive. You survived. Mashido. I'm sorry, I didn't know a thing. I thought I was the only one who had to live with bitter feelings. But Yuri, you'd stayed down here for 9 years unable to tell anyone anything. It's okay, Mashido. Tears spilled from Yuri's eyes as well. Thanks for finding even someone like me worthy of your tears. I'm so glad I met you, Mashido. I'm so glad that we're friends. I love you, Mashido. Me too, me too. The two girls hugged each other in tears. Natsuhiko and the others watched them silently. Nobody said a thing, because without a word the two girls' feelings were conveyed to everyone else. Eventually, after the two girls stopped crying, Mashido shamefully spoke to the others. Oh man, I'm sorry you guys had to see something so embarrassing. By the time she said that with an embarrassed smile, Marshida was back to the same girl she usually was. It's okay, Miss Toba. That's the perfect time to cry your eyes out. Yeah, it was a beautiful sight to see. Somewhat jealous. Marshida and Yuri blushed to hear the girl's words. Watase and Ukita said nothing. Marshida appeared to be afraid of them, but she seemed to be holding it back. With everyone's feelings in mind, Natsuhiko spoke up. Guys, the 8 of us have managed to come together thanks to all our hard work, but as you know, it's still doubtful that we can get out of here together, or if we can get out of here together or not, given our current situation. Everyone's faces froze at that statement. Because of the bomb, right? Yeah, the bomb Watase said is sleeping in Area 0. Watase spoke uncomfortably in response to Natsuhiko. Furthermore, the bomb set to explode just 1 minute after the bulkheads opened. Natsuhiko glanced at Brain Cell's monitor. It displayed the time, 6:19. In just under 40 minutes, the facility's going to be blown sky high. Thanks to Natsuhiko's untargeted telepathy, not even Marshida needed to be brought up to speed. Everyone had the same information and spoke their own opinions. If we catch Miss Tachibana and erase her malice, can't we all escape together? Can't you use BC to kill Kazami Tachibana? It might be difficult. The WX particle energies in each area have already dropped down as low as 1 microsievert. When did it get that low? Just now, I guess. Looks like it's been dropping around 2000 microsieverts an hour for some time. I agree with this assessment. Everyone, look at that. Yukita pointed at Brain Cell's monitor. You may have forgotten, but Brain Cell's monitor has indicators for the estimated lockdown end time and WX particle energy level in Area N. Area N's current energy level is 2789 microsieverts and it's decreasing rapidly. Now that he mentioned it, the monitor indeed displayed that value. But that value began decreasing to 2788, 2787, 2786. Once the value reached 0, the bulkheads were probably open. I see, if Area N's energy level has decreased that much, then it makes sense the other areas are so low. With particle levels this low, area-to-area communication might be possible. Also, the malice has gotten Kazami pretty bad. Even if you're able to get telepathy through to her, I doubt she'd come here. Their facilities, their facial expressions have become strained. Then we've got 2 routes we can take. Do we find Miss Tachibana within 40 minutes, or do we go down to Area 0 and defuse the bomb? The latter should be safer. Let's go with that. After all, us rescue workers have procedures for disarming bombs. Huh? You do? I never heard a thing about that. That just means there are a lot of memories you haven't read with sense sympathy. Now that he mentioned it, that was a natural conclusion. It was as if Natsuhiko had read all of Watase's memories. Right, besides, if the tetral bomb explodes, then even the people around the facility outside could get caught in the blast. As rescue workers, we can't have any of that. Indeed, it would be bad if someone got caught in the blast. Natsuhiko nodded. So I think we should follow my mother's direction and hack into Brain Cell to activate the elevator at Area 0. We need 3 people to steal root authority. So how about 3 people stay here in the control room while the others go down to Area 0? No, there's no need for everyone to come down. Mortabe and I will be fine on our own. Wait, I'll go too. This is my problem too. Then I'll go too. Huh? You too, Sally? Modern bombs usually come with digital protection. I can use Alice to negate their protection easily. I'm confident I can do this faster than the rescue squad. I see. Sounds hopeful. Everyone nodded. Then Natsuhiko, Yuri and I will do the hacking. I'll stay up here in case Miss Tachibana appears. Sounds good. All 8 people exchanged glances. The Area 0 team. Watase, Jin, Sally, Ukita. The control room team. Natsuhiko, Yuri, Marshida, Ina. Okay then, let's begin. Yeah. Everyone mobilized at once. First, Natsuhiko's group connected Alice number 2 to Brain Cell. The authentication screen appeared on the 3 control terminals. Alice number 2's monitor displayed a manual, which they referenced to confirm the security nullification process. Meanwhile, Watase's group gathered the necessities for disarming bombs, like tools and liquid nitrogen. They took a can of medical-grade liquid nitrogen from the infirmary. Along the way, Sally retrieved Alice number 1 from the girls' restroom. Alright, we're all set on our end. Area 0 group then gathered in front of the Area N elevator. After confirming they were ready, Ina, the go-between, rushed into the control room. Miss Sixkilla, We're good to go. Steel root authority. Yeah, let's do this, Yeti. Marshido. Yes. Bring it on. And then the kids simultaneously operated the terminals. Brain cells monitor changed completely to display a list of all the installations in the facility. We've only got one chance. We have to finish everything within 30 seconds. They scrolled through the gigantic menu screen and chose the security settings for Area N and Area 0. Then they negated the security clearance for both areas so that the elevator could be activated freely. Okay, that should do it. I'll go check. Eda dashed out of the control room. Eventually, an alarm came up on Braincell's screen. Illegal access detected. Revoking access authority. The alerts continued. Activating reactive barrier. Shutting down illegal access originator. As soon as the screen appeared, Alice number 2's monitor suddenly shut down. Phew. Yudi panicked and tried touching Alice number 2. And no matter how much he touched her or shook her, Alice number 2 didn't move. Did she break? Looks like it. If Watase's team hadn't gotten the news in time, they were totally out of options. As that thought crossed Natsuhiko's mind, Ina returned. Miss Ina, how'd it go? It worked. Captain Kasasagi's group was able to go down. We did it? Yudi cheered. Natsuhiko took a deep breath and pumped his fist. Now then, how about we leave the bomb to Salu's group and go search for Miss Tachibana? We can't, Miss Toba. Not with those injuries of yours. You must finish up a blood transfusion, remember? You just finished up, sorry. Just walking around this facility is dangerous enough on its own. But once Marshido said that, a certain idea struck Natsuhiko. Wait, perhaps you don't need to walk around to look for her. Huh? I just thought of a way to call Miss Tachibana here. Natsuhiko smiled as he came up with the answer. We'll have to take a chance on it if she'll come or not, but in any case, let's move to Area 3. Once Natsuhiko and the others had overridden the security locks, Watase, Jin, Ukida, and Salu arrived at Area 0. The senior fellows that Watase had brought down onto them on his last trip were lying dead by the elevators. Watase had resigned himself to their deaths, and everyone else knew about their fates due to Natsuhiko's BC usage on them all earlier, so none of them were surprised, but I'm sorry. Watase still felt deep regret about the whole thing. Jin put her hands together in prayer for the 2 lost souls, then looked around. I can't believe there's a place like this under Labo. The deepest basement area, the heart of Labo. Ukida looked away from the bodies and muttered to himself. Salu said nothing, she just looked at the ceiling with dull eyes. I planted the bomb in Subject N's room, let's go. Watase led everyone to the room in question, and when they got there... What? This is... Jin couldn't help raising her voice in shock. This was Subject N's straitjacket. They restrained her in this thing. No, not that. Jin looked around. Not the straitjacket, but the entire room. What's wrong, Mortabe? No, never mind. Anyway, let's take care of that bomb, pronto. Indeed. The group ran over to the bomb set in the middle of the room. This is the Tetral bomb. Yeah, the detonator for this one is much more complex than the other bombs. It's got a tilt sensor and an optical sensor, so it won't be easy to disarm. Sheesh, how typical of a terrorist organization. But we can probably take care of it if we remove the digital protection. Understood. First we undo the protection. Now that Alice is connected, we use the liquid nitrogen on it. You can't do anything if we don't disable the sensors first, see? Got it. Watase then took the liquid nitrogen can out of his pocket. He was then about to use it on the bomb when... he suddenly noticed something. What's wrong, Captain? If you don't hurry, the time of the explosion's gonna... Well, about that. Everyone looked at the bomb's timer when he said that. The digital countdown displayed the time remaining until the explosion. 39 minutes and 16 seconds. 15. 14. According to Watase's watch, the current time was 5:37:47. It was then that Watase realized... No, that he remembered it. Hey. The detonation time. It was set to 6:17, wasn't it? What about it? This doesn't make sense. I made sure to set the bomb so that it went off 1 minute after the lockdown was lifted. So, why did the timer in the control room say the lockdown would lift at 6:19? That's 2 minutes short. The bomb will go off before the lockdown's lifted. Everyone gasped. The bomb's timer wasn't off. It was the lockdown timer that was off. It was now scheduled for just a few minutes later than when Watase and Ukita had first checked it. Yeah, that is strange. When we went to the control room for the first time at the start of the search, brain cells showed that the lockdown would be lifted at 6:16. Why? When was it delayed? I don't know. Did someone change the lockdown end time? No, that's impossible. Brain cell automatically sets the time based on the BC particle energy levels at reading in area N. Normally it'd be impossible for the lockdown end time to fall behind. What could cause it then? Well, I suppose it could happen if the amplifier went haywire again and caused the BC particle energy levels to rise once more, or... Something about Ukita's explanation clicked in Watase's mind. Oh man, what did you just say? Huh? Oh well, if the WX particle amplifier were to go haywire again... No, before that. How'd you say brain cell automatically sets the lockdown end time? It does it by measuring the BC particle energy readings in area N and calculating approximately how long it'll take for them to die down to 1 microsecond. Just then, numerous pieces fell into place in Watase's head. The fact that Natsuhiko had been lying unconscious in area N for a long time, the auditory hallucination he'd heard for 6 hours, sense sympathy, communicators, BC particle energy levels. Now I get it, I figured out why the lockdown end time changed. Huh? It wasn't just the WX particle amplifier that was amplifying the BC particle energy levels. It was also Natsuhiko. He was amplifying the energy level in area N for 6 hours. Because he was constantly using BC in area N that whole time. I see. So the energy produced by the WX particle amplifier and the energy emitted by Natsuhiko together added up to a slight increase of the overall BC particle energy levels in area N. So that means brain cell recalculated the lockdown end time. Yeah. Watase instinctively held his head. So the lockdown end time was extended by 3 minutes, meaning the bomb will go off 2 minutes before then. Everyone's eyes widened at those words. This is real bad, we need to let the others know. No, there's no time for that. What would telling them even accomplish? It won't do anything to improve the situation. Yeah. Despite his words, Watase was feeling intense regret. Though he'd already set the bomb, he figured that 9 of them could just wait for the lockdown to lift and escape as soon as that happened. But with the bomb set to go off before the lockdown ended, freeing Kazami from her malice wouldn't matter in the slightest. They would all die in the explosion. God damn it, this can't be happening. This never would have happened if I hadn't set the bomb to begin with. Just as Watase thought that, he heard some noise coming from the ceiling. What was that? He looked up in surprise. When he did, he heard Natsuhiko's voice coming out of a speaker built into the ceiling. Miss Tachibana, can you hear me? Meanwhile, Natsuhiko went to the surveillance room with Yuri, Marshido, and Ena. Since they had no way of knowing whether or not they could reach Kazami with BC, they decided to call out to her directly. They sent her a message using the PA mic that Watase had repaired. I understand why you'd want to kill Watase, and how you're disappointed in him and want at least to protect his honor. Because Watase was once the man you thought he was, someone who put his life on the line to save others. Natsuhiko's voice echoed throughout the facility. But his mind warped. 16 years ago was the Great Arson. He hated the ones that concealed the truth behind it. Watase caused this incident in an attempt to avenge the death of his sister. But the terrorist plot failed and many victims came of it. His accomplices to the plan, Dojima and Hiyama, lost their lives as well. And eventually the girl who got dragged into this entire affair, Subject N. And I think that's unforgivable, but still, allow me to say just one thing. Watase is no terrorist at heart. You saw just how hard he worked while he had amnesia, didn't you, Mr. Tachibana? He was a good guy at the time. Even though he was incompetent, he was still strong. He was strong-willed and held no regard for his own life if it meant saving others. Natsuhiko mentally recalled the image of Watase that once was. How he used his body as a shield to protect Yuri from the collapsed ceiling. How he headed to Area N alone to extinguish the fires he thought were there and save everyone. I've been watching Watase all this time. He may be a terrorist, but when he lost his memories and returned to the pure essence of Watase, his true nature was that of a hero. Even as he drafted the terrorist plot, he was always working hard to ensure he took no human lives. And when he regained his terrorist memories, he still worked desperately to save everyone. So it'd be a waste to kill him, don't you think? Indeed, that was what Natsuhiko thought at the time. He didn't want Watase to die. It didn't matter what kind of person Watase was now. The fact that Yuri was alive was unmistakably thanks to him. I don't want you to defile your hands either, Miss Tachibana. Watase's crimes should be judged before the public. And for that to happen, don't we all need to survive and escape as a group? All 9 of us. No exceptions. By getting out of Labo alive, Watase's crime would not disappear afterwards. And neither would the memory of the day of his day of wrath before his crime. But even so, he should live, so he could atone. Even if purgatory awaited him outside, he should live to see the days after. And there's one last thing I'd like to tell you, Miss Tachibana. The girl you're carrying, Subject N, she's a powerful communicator. She spread BC with malice while she was alive. That malice warped the minds and memories of both you and Watase. We want to bring you back to normal. We want to bring you back to the strict yet gentle Lieutenant Tachibana. So please come to the surveillance room, we'll be waiting for you. Natsuhiko left that long message and ended the broadcast. When he turned around, Yuri, Masato, and Ena were waiting for him. Hikaden. Natsuhiko, you're being a little too naive, don't you think? But this might help Captain Kasasagi reflect a little too. Natsuhiko smiled wryly at those words. Hopefully that is. Natsuhiko prayed that his announcement would resonate in Watase's mind and help give him a change of heart. But that hope was nothing more than hope. There were more pressing matters at hand for him to take care of. Now then, all we have to do is wait for Miss Tachibana. The others nodded at those words. Meanwhile, in Area Zero, Natsuhiko's speech brought renewed determination to Watase and the others' faces as they glared at the bomb. Boy, we really can't return empty-handed after hearing that, can we? Indeed. Now that it's come to this, we must disarm the bomb, no matter the cost. Time's running out, let's begin. Yeah. Watase nodded firmly. Now he needed to atone for his sin in all sorts of ways. This bomb was his first trial. I swear I won't let anyone die. In the off chance that he can't disarm the bomb, I'll... Dark thoughts gathered in the corners of Watase's heart. But he pushed them aside for now and used the liquid nitrogen on the bomb. Natsuhiko's group waited in the surveillance room for Kazami to arrive. Nobody said a word. Silence filled the room. Will Miss Tachibana come? Natsuhiko and Ena stood closer to the door to protect Yuri and Masato. Ena held her gun back, behind her back, leaving no holes in her vigilance. Natsuhiko left the gun he got from Mukita slung in his belt. Hopefully I won't have to use this thing though. As soon as Natsuhiko had that thought, the heavy silence was shattered. The door to the room opened and Kazami appeared. It's been a while, hasn't it, Tinkawa? Kazami looked at Natsuhiko with dull eyes. She didn't bring Subject N with her. She must have put it down somewhere. Thanks for coming. Something about your announcement piqued my interest. Watase and I have had our minds warped by BC, you say. And you say that you can bring me back to normal. What is the meaning of that? I'll explain it briefly. First off, Yuri and I are high-level communicators. Our abilities are telepathy, empathy, and a third ability which synchronizes human minds and allows for memory manipulation, sense sympathy. You're saying such an ability exists? It's an ability that's unknown to the general public. Communicators that can use it are also extremely rare. And it's not just us who can use it. Subject N, the girl you call Nagisa, was able to use it too. She too was a high-level communicator. Oh shit, I missed one. Sorry. Through BC, the malice propagated to the people who came in contact with it. They lost mental stability and began attacking others. That's the truth of the incident that happened here. Kazami silently looked on with doubt and hostility in her eyes. So what do you suggest you'll do to me? We'll erase the malice from her mind as well. Natsuhiko tensely answered. She's the last one. I'll do it carefully. I'll look in every nook and cranny of Miss Tachibana's mind and erase all of the malice. We don't have much time left, so we can't afford any failures. But confronting the Subject N within Kazami could mean coming into contact with the test subject for the 4th time. Each confrontation with her whittled down his mind. There was no guarantee he could withstand another one. But as that thought crossed his mind, he received a telepathy from Yuri. Hikaden, are you okay? If you think you've reached your limit, I'll go instead. No, Yuri. I'm grateful for the sentiment, but let's not. If you get infected with Subject N's malice, then maybe not even I can stop you. It'd be the end of everything at that point. You can't let that happen, right? So please continue what you've been doing and take care of covering for me. Okay. Yuri nodded and grabbed Natsuhiko's hand. It'll be okay. You've come so far already. But when he stepped up to Kazami, she stepped back as if in fear. Please don't be frightened. We just want to bring you back to normal. I see. So you'll do that regardless of whether I want it or not, won't you? Yes. Because we want to gather everyone and escape together. Natsuhiko and Yuri said that as they reached their hands out to Kazami's forehead. Mashiro and Ina gulped as they watched the two of them unite their minds and dive into Kazami's memory. This ended up being a lot more missing footage than I realized. Like, holy shit. I apologize that I missed this much footage. How did that happen? My god. So this is going to be a really long episode. I'm just going to do it in one go though. Because I don't want to necro the whole fucking series. I just want to put out the piece that fits everything together. And I don't know whether I was like skipping stuff before and maybe that's why this episode would have been shorter when I'd recorded it last time. Or maybe it was multiple episodes that I missed. And that's why? I don't know. I honestly don't know, but let's carry on. It was 9 years ago. A memory of when Kazami was 19 years old. A spring breeze caressed her cheeks and rolled across the lawn. Kazami spoke to the girl next to her as they stood in the midst of that warm breeze. Nice weather, isn't it, Nagisa? Sure is, sis. The one who answered was Kazami's sister, Nagisa. Today was Kazami's day off, so she went to the park for the first time in ages. She could hear the sounds of children playing in the distance. Ha! You moved your leg, Mashiro, you lose. No, wait, you sneak attacked me. One more time from the start. Haha, you're still gonna lose no matter what you do. What was that? It appeared a boy and a girl were playing hip sumo. She'd seen the boy before. He was probably one of the kids who lived around the neighborhood. Oh, look, those kids are about your age. Why do you go play with them? No, that game looks kinda hard. Oh, that's fine. It'd be better for you to not play any rough games anyway. Now why don't we just take a nice little walk? Yeah. Kazami took her beaming sister by the hand and broke her out into a walk. Nagisa had been born with a frail body. She didn't have any chronic diseases or anything like that, but she had a weak cardiopulmonary function. Sorry. And she was prone to catching colds and such. That was why they hadn't visited the park in a while. I guess she inherited too much from mother and father. The sisters didn't have any parents. They both passed away from cancer, their mothers 5 years ago, and their father 3. Kazami currently worked at a flower shop to support Nagisa. But as they had no family aside from each other, their sisterly bonds were very strong. You'll be starting elementary school soon, huh? Yeah, you think I could make lots of friends? Of course, in that school, definitely. You're right, I'm so excited for it. Seeing Nagisa's smile filled Kazami with joy. Nagisa had only been 3 years old when their father had passed away. It had not been easy for the then 16-year-old Kazami to raise his sister by herself. But it had by no means been a painful experience, for Nagisa was a very kind girl. Her smile always greeted Kazami when she came home from work. It was nigh therapeutic for Kazami to see such consideration from her sister despite her young age. Nagisa was the most precious treasure that Kazami's parents had left behind for her. Though she was her younger sister, it felt the other way around at the same time, and so Kazami had properly raised her sister until the time had come for her to enter elementary school. Nagisa meant everything to her. By the way, looks like spring's finally started for real now. Yeah, it's so nice and warm out. Why don't we just rest and enjoy the sun, sis? Now that's a good idea. Kazami and Nagisa lay down in the grass. The sky's so pretty. It feels nice too. The spring sunlight shone upon the sisters. Kazami thought to herself as she lay, engulfed in the warm light. It's already been 3 years since I started supporting Nagisa, huh? Maybe it's thanks to this city that we were able to make it so far. It had already been 7 years since Sorokume City had been made a government-designated top-secret city. The city's social services had considerably bloomed in that time, allowing Kazami and Nagisa to reap their benefits. The city had profited immensely from its many science and technology industries centered around nuclear power and BC, and that wealth provided for the sisters. I should be grateful for that, even though I have virtually no aptitude. Kazami also had BC aptitude, but very little of it. She was only ranked D. Those at that level could hardly call themselves communicators. It pretty much took all their effort and even the slightest hope of using telepathy. Kazami couldn't even use telepathy. She never attended Rokume Academy. But there were more important things to worry about. When she was 12, the city had been swept by a horrible disaster. The Great Rokume City Arson, an attack committed by an extremist group who hated communicators. The Tachibana family had fortunately been unaffected by the incident, but the facts surrounding it were enough to frighten Kazami. So to be careful, she had instructed both herself and her sister not to talk about BC very much. But, well, I guess it'll have to end soon. For Nagisa at the very least. Drowsiness started catching up to her as she idly thought about that. Oh no, Nagisa will get bored if I fall asleep. But she had a hard time staving off the exhaustion that came with having worked hard day after day. Oh, sis, you asleep? Nagisa's voice also sounded like it was very far away. I'm sleepy. No, I mustn't sleep, but I'm sleepy. Despite her struggle to stay awake, Kazami dozed off. In the midst of her brief slumber, Kazami had a sad dream. It was about Nagisa going away somewhere. Kazami watched as her sister walked off into the distance, slowly fading into the blinding void. Nagisa, wait! Don't go! Don't go, you'll never be able to come back if you do. She tried to scream aloud, but her voice wouldn't obey her. In spite of that, Nagisa quietly turned around and smiled at Kazami. Nagisa? Kazami then woke up. Huh? Where's Nagisa? Kazami was astonished. She wondered if her dream had become reality for a moment. But when she looked around, she saw Nagisa at a short distance away. Next to her was a local girl named Jun. It appeared that Nagisa had come across her and the two of them just started playing while Kazami was asleep. Oh no, how could I have been so careless? Kazami frantically stood up and ran over to them. Jun, I'm so sorry you had to watch over Nagisa for me. Oh, Kazami, nah, it's cool. I was having fun too. You were sleeping like a log, sis, so I didn't want to wake you up. I can't believe I dozed off like that. It must be because it's so nice and warm today. Nagisa and Jun laughed at Kazami's embarrassed reaction. Oh my, it looks like it's already past noon. Why don't we go home and I'll fix you up some lunch? Yeah, I'm starving. Kazami then took Nagisa and Jun hand in hand and started heading back to her residence. She believed that this simple peace would last forever. About a week later, Kazami hurried on home after getting off work. I have to hurry or I'm going to be late. Tomorrow is Nagisa's first day of elementary school, so Kazami wanted to have a fun day with her sister before then and make sure she was ready for tomorrow. I'd like to take the day off tomorrow so we can celebrate her first day. Oh, it'd be nice to invite Jun over too while I'm at it. The moment that thought crossed her mind, the fire truck siren screeched as it sped past Kazami. Did something happen? She suddenly felt uneasy. Kazami looked toward the skies above her destination and then noticed it. A line of smoke rising from the direction of the apartment complex where she and Nagisa lived. Huh? Kazami instinctively broke off into a dash. She felt like she could hear Nagisa calling for help. And the sight that awaited her was the partially collapsed apartment complex engulfed in a wall of smoke. This can't be. No, what is this? She couldn't believe her eyes. Firefighters ran around while onlookers gathered around and started making a ruckus. Oh my god, what the hell happened here? It was a gas explosion. Boy, I feel sorry for anyone still in there. Just as I said, the third floor, the one where the Tachibanas lived, was collapsing. Nagisa! Nagisa! Kazami staggered toward the apartment complex. The hallway she often walked through was now slanting. Debris fell from the ceiling with each step she took. Ignoring it, Kazami headed straight for the staircase leading to the third floor. Hey, what are you doing? Only to be stopped by a voice from downstairs. She quickly turned around to find a man in an orange uniform standing there. Who are you? I'm a rescue worker. I'm here to rescue those trapped here. Do you have family here? Yes, my little sister. Please save her. She's in room 303. We're actually heading there ourselves just now. Don't worry, I swear we'll save your sister. But it's dangerous for you here, so wait outside. Okay. She felt she could trust the man from the calm voice he spoke with. She reluctantly nodded and headed out of the apartment complex. The man then rescued Nagisa, just as he'd promised. He also brought out Jun, who had been in the apartment and got caught in the explosion as well. The 2 girls were taken to the hospital in an ambulance with Kazami not far behind. Alas, that wasn't the end of the story. A medical exam revealed that Nagisa had been struck in the head during the explosion and was suffering from severe blood loss. Kazami spent an entire sleepless day in front of the ICU, praying for the moment she could see Nagisa safe and sound. Then, in the middle of the night on April 8th, the doctor in charge of Nagisa's treatment exited the ICU. "Doctor, how's Nagisa? How's my sister?" The doctor's expression grew grave at Kazami's cries. "It pains me to inform you of this, but..." Kazami had heard her entire world shatter at that moment. She didn't remember much of what happened after that. She couldn't accept the fact that she'd lost Nagisa. The loss even temporarily robbed her of her mental stability. Kazami muttered to herself as she walked through the streets of Rokume. "Nagisa, hey, where are you? It's almost time to eat, let's go home." "You know home, back at Rokume Municipal Apartment Complex." Kazami wandered the city in search of her long-gone sister and her long-gone home. None of it felt real to her. It was like it had all happened in a dream. The days blurred into one another. Kazami was staying at a temporary home provided by the union that managed her apartment complex. It seemed like someone had tried to visit her on multiple occasions, but even that felt uncertain to her. It was probably a representative from the union coming to apologize to her. She thought she heard a voice apologizing to her over and over again. But none of that mattered to her. She turned away all visitors. All that waited her after walking through the city every day was a trip back to that temporary home. That was her new life. She didn't work, she barely ate. All she did day after day was to continue searching for what she'd lost. It was Jin who finally brought her back to reality. One day when she came across Jin, after visiting the park for the first time in a while. "Oh, Jin, have you seen Nagisa?" And she asked Jin that. The girl started shouting with tears in her eyes. "That's enough. That's enough, Kazami. You'll never find her no matter how much you look, because no matter where you look, Nagisa's already gone." What are you talking about? Nagisa's dead. She got hit in the head in that explosion back then. For a moment, Kazami didn't understand what she just heard. But those words pierced through her heart and parted the fog that had clouded her head. The bitter truth of reality gradually came back to her. She recalled a memory that had been shut away in her clouded mind. A small funeral home on the outskirts of town, the chanting of sutras, Jin who had come despite the lack of many other attendees. The rescue workers who had saved Nagisa looked at Kazami with utter guilt and condolences. And Nagisa resting in her casket. She couldn't tell how many days had passed since then. The events of that day slowly began to fill her mind. "I see. So she's dead, huh?" Kazami finally accepted reality. It then hit her again just how valuable what she lost was. She was finally all alone. She lost her only sister after ages of the 2 of them living by themselves. How was she supposed to live now without Nagisa in her life? When Kazami thought that, Jin suddenly spoke up as if she'd come to a decision. "I won't leave you alone. Because I'll be your little sister, since Nagisa no longer can." "Huh? I know I'm nothing like her and I'm not cute at all, but I'll be your little sister, sis. So that's why, Jin, you..." It was when she heard those words that Kazami realized something. She wasn't the only one grieving. Jin was also mourning the death of Nagisa, and Kazami had spent the last few weeks only adding to that poor girl's sorrow. "I'm not alone. I have Jin with me too. We both share the same sorrow." Jin, a stranger of tender years, had treated her with kindness. The same kindness that Nagisa had possessed. Kazami gently embraced Jin and spoke, "Thank you." After parting with Jin, Kazami then returned to her temporary home. Her room was probably a total mess. She had gone through each day in a daze, not even realizing it. "I should clean up first once I get back." She then walked up to her door with that thought in mind, but then stopped. She noticed an envelope sticking out of her mailbox. She took it to find that the sender was the Rokume City Fire Department. "What's this about?" Kazami gently opened the envelope. In it was a tiny crumpled up box and a letter. The letter, written in very rough handwriting, read as such. "Dear Miss Kazami Tachibana, we apologize for the other day. We're truly sorry from the bottom of our hearts for the loss of your sister Nagisa. We also wish to apologize for causing you a great burden with our frequent visits. We will take your feelings into account and cease our visits to your home. However, while we know this is very rude on our part, we have delivered to you this item that Nagisa was clutching in her hand when we rescued her. Nagisa gave it to us for safekeeping just before she was put in the ambulance. We've not looked at its contents. The only thing we were asked to do was deliver it to you. We pray that you will not lose heart and live from now on with peace of mind. Finally, while we may already have told you this many times, we sincerely apologize for failing to save your beloved sister. However, we will continue with our work, for it is the only thing we can do for Nagisa. Hirokume City Fire Department, Special Elite Rescue Squad members, Watase Kasasagi and Seiji Dojima. Huh? Huh? Kazami didn't recognize those names. Frequent visits, what are they talking about? Now that she thought about it, she thought she'd felt someone visit her house several times and apologized to her while she'd been living in denial. They were these firefighters. I turned these people away? Their memories of that time were completely blank. And what is this something that Nagisa was holding when they rescued her? Kazami tried to restrain his confusion and looked at the box in the envelope. It was a small box with a ribbon tied around it. It looked like a gift box. Kazami gently undid the ribbon and opened the box, to find a small necklace inside. The necklace appeared to be a locket, one that could house a photograph. There was another small letter enclosed. This letter, written in Nagisa's handwriting, read as such. Dear Sis, thanks for all the yummy food you make. Here's a present from me and Jin as thanks. We'll be together forever and ever. I love you, Sis. Nagisa. Sobs burst from Kazami's throat the moment she saw the letter. The tears that had never come after Nagisa's death were suddenly all rushing out of her at once. Kazami wept bitterly, not caring as if she was attracting others' attention. Nagisa, Nagisa. With each hoarse scream she let out the words Nagisa had written, soaked into her soul more and more. Memories of the days she'd spent with her sister flashed through her brain and disappeared just as quickly. Kazami just stayed there crying for what felt like forever, all while clutching Nagisa's gift. Before long, those tears dried up, and Kazami made up her mind. I'll live for both myself and for Nagisa. That was the only thing she could do for her. Kazami's decision filled her heart with hope. But she was also struck by regret at the same time. If she'd gotten home sooner that day, she might have been able to save Nagisa. Before she knew it, Kazami became completely obsessed with that idea. Just living for Nagisa's sake isn't enough. There must be something I can use my life for, so that nobody else has to lose someone like I lost Nagisa. It wasn't long before Kazami took that train of thought to its conclusion and decided on her own path in life. You gonna be a firefighter, sis? Kazami told Jun of her decision the next time she saw her. But why? This is so sudden. No, it isn't. I thought everything through, and this is the conclusion I've reached. What about your job at the flower shop? I like that job, but I'll quit it and join the firefighting school. She didn't have to worry about living expenses for the time being, since she received a great deal of compensation money from the apartment complex management union. But Jin stared at Kazami after a brief silence, then spoke. Hey sis, is this about what happened to Nagisa? If it is, then I'm against you becoming a firefighter. Why? Because you're being unbelievably reckless, that's why. Jin's words did hold a ring of truth to them. Kazami hadn't been able to save Nagisa back then. It was probably presumptuous of her to think that she could possibly have saved her if she'd been there. But despite that, Kazami wanted to save many lives in the future to atone for that. I understand your concerns, but the answer is no, I won't change my mind. Why? Well, why indeed? Kazami smiled gently, all while thinking Nagisa would have supported her if she were there. Time flew by. 2 years had passed since Nagisa's death. Kazami had passed the civil service exam, graduated from firefighting school, and was assigned to the Rokume Eastern Fire Station. Since she hadn't been able to do any sort of manual labor up until that point, she had been able to push herself to the limit. She had to push herself to the limit to become a firefighter. But she overcame her trials and worked with all her might every day. She never hesitated, not even at dispatches where her life was at stake. She had little to lose and bore a huge responsibility that allowed her to forge an iron will and bravery that bordered on recklessness. She tempered herself with that iron will of hers. I have to get stronger or I won't be able to save anyone. Kazami had learned from her own weakness through the weeks she had spent wandering in a daze like an empty shell. So to overcome that weakness, she put herself through rigorous training beyond the norm. Her body and mind grew in strength with each strenuous day. Before long, they granted her a level of skill that defied her gender and natural talent. Then 4 years after she became a firefighter, Kazami's skills were finally acknowledged, allowing her to enlist in Sirius. Thus came about the birth of the Rokume City Fire Department's first female rescue worker. As a result, Kazami was transferred from the eastern fire station to the central fire station. Then one early afternoon, shortly before her transfer was to take place, Kazami passed by the central fire station and witnessed a man jogging around the grounds. That man is a member of Sirius. They both worked for the Rokume City Fire Department. She at least knew his name and face. They'd never spoken before because they'd been working in different stations, but that was all about to change. Figuring she should give him a brief greeting, Kazami waited for the man to come on over. It wasn't long before he returned to the fire station's front gate. Phew! Kazami walked up to the man as he took a breath. Though he had somewhat a harsh look on his face and seemed strict, Kazami had to contain the feelings welling in her heart when she saw his face up close. We finally meet. She hesitated for a few seconds, then resolved herself and called out to him. Excuse me. You're Fire Sergeant Watase Kasasagi, Captain of Sirius Team A, correct? I am. And you are? I am Kazami Tachibana, firefighter. I'm scheduled to enlist in Sirius starting next week, sir. Watase's eyes widened in what appeared to be surprise and interest when he saw the salute Kazami gave and heard her introduction. So you're our department's lady rescue worker, huh? I've heard the rumours. The commander did say that we had this incredible female firefighter in our midst. Sir, I'm honoured to hear that, sir. Kazami stood straight as she kept up the salute. Her heart was ringing like an alarm bell. Now, no need to be so tense. We'll be squad mates starting next week after all. But you're my superior. Well, that's true. Guess you got a point. Anyway, I look forward to working with you. I'm expecting great things from you. And I look forward to working under your command, sir. Watase lightly patted the polite Kazami on the shoulder and headed back toward the station. Kazami watched him walk away and thought to herself, so he really doesn't remember, does he? Well, I suppose it has been 6 years. Kazami smiled wryly. The name Watase Kasasagi was well known even in the Eastern Fire Station. He was known as Sirius's Ace, Iron Man, and Rokume City's King Kong. But those nicknames didn't matter. Though he was a very special rescue worker to Kazami. He's the one who stopped me in the apartment 6 years ago and rescued Nagisa. He was also the one who visited her over and over again in an attempt to deliver the locket Nagisa had entrusted him with. That said, Kazami didn't even remember that part. It appeared Watase had forgotten as well. But Kazami still wore that locket to that day. She'd been hoping to thank him all those years, but a long time had passed by without a single apology from her for sending him away. Bringing it up now would probably just cause Watase to relive his guilt of failing to save Nagisa. But Kazami had always hoped that the day would come where she could thank him. Would Nagisa be angry if I said one of my reasons for enlisting in Sirius would be so that I could work at the same place as that man? Kazami looked to the skies with that thought. Hey Nagisa, I met the man who rescued you after all these years. He seems strict, but he really is a nice person. Your big sister will be doing her best. Please, keep cheering me on. All the tension Kazami had been feeling loosened up during that brief conversation with Watase. And at the same time, she started to look forward to her new job a little bit. But she had no time to entertain such thoughts after joining Sirius. On duty, Watase was harsh and cold, leaving no room at all for sentimentalities. In contrast, Kazami was impulsive and straightforward, the kind who kept throwing herself into danger on dispatches. The two of them kept clashing over their opinions, meaning Kazami kept losing more and more chances to thank him. Then one day, she got injured during a dispatch. Watase began scolding her as soon as they returned to the fire station. Tachibana, you were way too reckless back there. Didn't you hear me tell you to stop? Didn't I say you were running in too deep? My apologies, Kazami replied while keeping her dissatisfaction hidden. Their dispatch had been to a fire at a high-rise apartment. Kazami had jumped too eagerly to the call to save lives and got a burn over her face for it. Of course, it wasn't bad enough to leave a scar or anything, so she felt a bit irritated that Watase was giving her a full-blown lecture in spite of that. It's sheer dumb luck that you got away with just a light burn. Be extra careful to ensure you don't screw up like this ever again. But did we not receive a report that there was a 5-year-old girl trapped in that apartment? Children's actions are unpredictable, so I felt we had to rescue her before she did something unexpected. Are you saying it's okay to put yourself in danger if it means saving lives? Only a fool thinks that. Those words sent blood rushing to Kazami's head. With all due respect, Captain, is it not our job to save lives? I do not believe that what you said is befitting of a captain of Sirius. Don't talk like you've got it all figured out. That's what an idiot does. Listen up, Tachibana. Only an amateur glorifies acts of martyrdom. It's because we have a duty to save lives that we can't treat our own lives so lightly. Even if you fail to save one life on the job, you can still save many more lives as long as you're alive. Dying in the line of duty means condemning all those other lives you could have saved, right? Kazami was shocked by those words. I never thought of it that way. She'd been working under the belief that if she were faced with someone in need of rescue, she should save them even at the cost of her own life. But the captain's absolutely right. Of course, I'm not saying you should abandon lives that can be saved, not at all. But don't mistake recklessness for bravery. You're a capable one, but there's also a somewhat unstable side to you. You're so reckless I can't even bear to watch. Just make sure you correct that aspect of yourself, if nothing else. Yes, sir. Kasami hung her head in shame, embarrassed of her own foolishness. Watase sighed, then patted her on the shoulder. Well, but then again, I do get where you're coming from. Huh? You must still be haunted by what happened to your sister. Kazami's eyes widened. Captain, do you mean you remember me? Yeah. There's no way I could ever forget you. That was the first time I'd ever seen a woman look so heartbroken. I didn't say anything about it because I figured it was something you didn't really want to remember. No, my apologies. Kazami bowed deeply. All this time I wanted to thank you for what you did back then, myself. Thank you very much for delivering my sister's present. Nah, don't mention it. You should be thanking Dojima too. He's the one who actually carried her out, you see. Yes, sir. Kazami bowed one more time, causing a wry smile to form on Watase's face. But either way, no matter what happened in the past, acting without concern for your own life, your own safety, is dangerous. Keep that passion of yours in check from now on before you act. Always be calm and collected. Roger that, sir. Very good. Then head on over to the infirmary right away and get that burn treated. Yes, sir. If you'll excuse me, sir. Kazami turned around and walked off. Though she'd been scolded, her heart felt very clear. After that, Kazami did just as Watase had said and acted calmly in the field. After all, no matter how skilled they were, a rescue worker had to be calm if they wanted to survive that line of work. Once they saw she'd acquired that cool head, Watase and the rest of the team acknowledged Kazami as one of them. And she became a member of Sirius in both name and spirit. Time just seemed to fly by once Kazami had become a member of Sirius. Her life as a rescue worker provided a sense of fulfillment. What's more, though at first she had disagreed with him how work should be handled, Kazami made peace with Watase and eventually grew a deep-seated respect for him. That said, they still did disagree from time to time on certain matters. This included their attitudes toward work, their readiness, and their thoughts on BC. When she asked him about it in a random conversation of theirs, he had this to say on the matter. BC, huh? To be honest, I'm not what you'd call a big fan of it. Huh? He apparently disliked BC. When she asked why, he answered thusly. I felt this way ever since I heard about BC for the first time when I was a kid. But honestly, the whole idea of having your mind read just seems scary to me. That wasn't unusual for people of Watase's age, but it didn't seem like it was his only reason. Watase had a bad habit of putting up a bit of a wall between himself and other people. Perhaps it had something to do with how he lost his parents and his sister in the Great Rokume City arson. At any rate, Kazami decided to avoid the topic of BC from there on out. It looks like it would be best to hide the fact that I have an aptitude from him. That was the one thing Kazami would never tell Watase. Time then passed by without her making any big mistakes. Hard work gradually filled in the void in her heart left by the loss of her sister. Then one day, Jin, who adored Kazami, said that she was going to follow in her footsteps and aimed to become a member of Sirius. Kazami was quite against the idea, but she eventually caved in when faced with Jin's iron determination to follow through with that dream. And thus, Team A's current roster was complete. Then 3.5 years after Kazami enlisted in Sirius, in the early morning of September 16th, Kazami was just approaching the end of her night shift when the ear-splitting scream of a dispatch siren screeched through the station. Explosions of unknown origin have occurred in the 6th Laboratory of Atomic and Biological Organization, and with that ominous report, the curtain rose on the longest day of Kazami's life. Kazami and the others hurried on over to the dispatch site via helicopter after receiving the report. Team A lined up in Labo's entrance hall before Watase, who proceeded to give them instructions. Countless people are trapped in this lab as we speak, and due to the nature of this facility, this will be no ordinary dispatch. We don't know what will happen here, nor what unforeseen circumstances await us. This accident is indeed not ordinary, however, she was sure that they'd be able to overcome whatever was thrown their way, so long as they had Watase's leadership. He had saved her many a time over the last 3.5 years. Kazami had utter confidence in his amazing efficiency, and even saw him as a hero. and in turn Kazami had also saved Watase many times. Dojima and Hiyama, the more experienced co-workers, were also very reliable men. The one she was worried about was the newly enlisted Jin, but Kazami had faith in the strength of her heart. We'll just do this like always, we'll save as many people as we can, and we make it out of here with everyone in one piece. That's our job. Kazami steeled her determination, then rushed into Labo with her co-workers. Kazami and Jin searched the surface floors. They were equipped with the minimum gear necessary, air tanks, a rope, and an engine cutter. But during their search they lost contact with Watase, Dojima and Hiyama. She didn't know why, but it appeared that they'd gone down to the basement. It wasn't long afterward that both she and Jin discovered that there were still survivors in the basement and went down there themselves. But they lost sight of said survivors, and got their protection suits damaged. On top of that, they got trapped in the basement due to the declaration of a KSM. A KSM has just been detected. In accordance with this emergency, security has shifted to blockade mode, locking down all gates and bulkheads. Man, that takes me back. Locking down all gates and bulkheads. But Kazami refused to give up and continue the rescue efforts. By her side was Jin, the girl who had become like another sister to her. The two of them had found 2 level 2 security cards. They used those to search for an escape route and survivors as they put out fires in the facility. But they weren't able to find either. And just as they were about to finish searching areas 2 and 1... Is that the captain? They found Watase lying in a hallway in area 1. The 3 rescue workers then began their long and arduous battle throughout the facility. At that moment, a floral scent suddenly wafted in from somewhere. A floral scent. This is it. The memories after this point were altered. Miss Tachibana should go back to normal if I just repair them. Hikarin, we're finally at the last one. Good luck. Yeah. Natsuhiko agreed, resuming memory access. His search criterion was floral-scented memories. Alright, here we go. Man, we have to run through all of them again, don't we? Oh, this is going to be a long one. I apologise for like 3 or 4 hour video that it's going to be, but we're getting there. We're getting there. After they reunited with Watase in Area 1, Kazami and the others saved Yuri, a civilian who got caught up in the accident. But then Watase said something bizarre just afterwards. You've been calling me captain. Does that mean I'm the captain of a rescue squad or something? What do you mean by that? Well, the thing is, I don't know anything. Not who I am or even where I am. You don't mean... Oh, okay. It's a Watase Kasasagi one. I have the walkthrough here for it just to make sure I get it right. You've got amnesia? Yeah, I guess you would call this amnesia. That can't be. Kazami was doubtful for a second, but... Is that true? Yeah, I know, because my head's been hurting like hell for a while now. Maybe I hit it on something. That's probably why I'm feeling so dazed and having trouble remembering things. Natsuhiko repaired that false memory. First, she asked what was most urgent to confirm. Please, hold on a moment, Captain. Did you hurt your head by any chance? My head? Now that you mention it, I did have this really bad headache a few minutes ago. Fear and relief mixed in Kazami's heart when she heard that. I knew it. There's a possibility you hit your head on something. And that's probably why you're feeling so dazed and having trouble remembering things. Is that how it works? Yeah, it appears that retrograde amnesia caused by physical trauma goes away fairly quickly on its own, without requiring any particular treatment in most cases. Then you're saying this is only temporary? Yes, but if you suffered brain damage by any chance, it's possible your amnesia could be permanent. What the hell? That's horrible! Captain, how bad is your headache? Do you feel like throwing up? No, my head doesn't hurt at all right now, and my stomach feels fine. Kazami felt a twinge of relief from those words. But though it may be temporary, it doesn't change the fact that he's in a bad spot. I must give him my support. Kazami focused her mind on the new, prevalent issue at hand. At any rate, Kazami decided to put Watase's safety first and told him to wait behind the makeshift base. But he refused to accept that proposal. Let me help out with rescuing any other survivors. Huh? But But that doesn't change that I'm still a rescue worker, right? So I should be able to live with... I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I just sat on the sidelines while you're still hard at work. Hearing that made Kazami a little happy. But despite his amnesia, Watase still had the heart of a rescue worker. Sheesh, some things never change. But one could not survive this line of work with passion alone. So Kazami decided to act more strictly than usual to try and protect Watase, Jun, and Yuri. This is no ordinary mission, so if you want to stay with us as a rescue worker, then you must be prepared to accept the responsibilities and duties that come with it. You will be treated as a new recruit until you regain your memory. I ask that you follow my orders just as Mortabe does. I know this is a severe violation of my station, but trust me when I say your life could be in grave danger if you don't do as I say. Please try to understand. Yeah, roger that. Kazami silently encouraged Watase when she heard that. Please don't push yourself. Next one. The group then rescued a Rokume Academy teacher named Ena afterwards. They headed to the surveillance room in Area 3 where they encountered Ukita, a researcher. They then learned that 3 high schoolers were trapped in the facility, so as a result, they focused their efforts on rescuing them. But in the process, they came across a backdraft, thanks to a screw-up by Watase. Without his memories and his skills, Watase was scared half to death, but the group pressed on in spite of that. But what awaited Kazami and the others were the corpses of her co-worker and 2 researchers. It can't be. That body is... Yeah, that's Dojima. Kazami felt like she'd just been hit in the head from that statement. Alright, what do we got for this one? Watase Max again. Dojima had been a precious ally to her. Most of all, he was the one who rescued Nagase from that collapsing apartment complex with Watase. We want Watase at Max again? Watase at Max again. How can he be dead just like that? Why did this happen? Watase spoke in a hollow voice at that moment. What the hell happened here? Captain, are you saying that finding out what happened here is more important than the fact that Dojima died? No, that's not it at all. I'm just not sad. It doesn't feel real to me. It's more like an event that happened in a TV show. Natsuhiko repaired that false memory. Kazami hid just how shaken up she was and calmly answered, I don't know. However, it looks like they set up a simple makeshift base in this room. There were 2 broken AD ampules lying on the floor deeper in. It appears these are the ones that they'd been given at the start. Do you think Dojima administered it to these people? Yes, maybe. Dojima probably took those 2 under his protection and tried to come up with an escape plan. Just like us. But this doesn't make sense. Why did Dojima have to die? You mustn't let yourself dwell on this. Judging from the fact that there's no sign of Hiyama's body anywhere, he's probably still alive. We can still save him at the very least. Yeah. Let's go for now. If we remain here much longer, then it'll be difficult even for me. It took everything Kazami had to console Jun. Next one. Kazami and the others continued the search after they found Dojima's body. But just 1 hour later, they were faced with the death of yet another one of their co-workers. No. Hiyama, not you too. It appears that Hiyama had burned to death after both his legs had been broken. Kazami and Jun weren't alone. Ena, Ukita, and Yuri were also incredibly shaken up by that sight. Kazami stuck to her firm attitude in order to calm the others down. Dying in the line of duty is an unavoidable risk in this line of work. But Tachibana, please don't say anything, Captain. We can save our grief for after we've rescued the survivors and gotten outside. You have to do the same, Mortabe. Once Kazami had said that, Jun was the next to tearfully speak. But today was the first time I've ever lost a co-worker on the job. And now it's happened again. I know. But you have to hold your head high. You discarded your womanhood when you joined Sirius, remember that. But sis... Jun choked back a sob. Kazami didn't scold her for calling her sis. It took everything she had to hold back the tumult of emotions raging in her heart. I have to endure it. I have to lead everyone. Again, Watase Max. Watase Max. But just as Kazami thought that, Watase spoke up. Watase Max. Tachibana, Mortabe, can I have a minute? Huh? We're changing leaders. I'll lead the group from this point onwards. Captain? It really is a shame about Hiyama, but we can't afford to waste any time. The AD's effects will wear off and we barely have any on us. This may sound harsh, but we have to survive. Natsuhiko repaired that false memory. Oh, come on. I'm just restoring the status quo, that's all. Anyway, just rely on me for a while, especially you, Tachibana. You've been carrying far too heavy a burden up until now. Kazami looked at Watase. No way, but I have to. I'm the leader right now. That's my responsibility. There's no way I can entrust all that to the hands of someone who's lost his memories. But Watase beat Kazami to the punch before she could say anything. Didn't you hear me? Then let me make it an order, as serious as captain. As of this point onwards, Lieutenant Kazami Tachibana and Ensign Jun Moribe will hereby defer to Captain Watase Kasasagi's command. Kazami shuddered at those words. His voice, the look on his face, they were that of the usual Watase. Now, let me hear you say it. Sir, Lieutenant Kazami Tachibana deferring to Captain Watase Kasasagi's command, sir. Ensign Jun Moribe deferring to Captain's command, sir. Good. Watase then smiled and patted Kazami on the shoulder. And there you have it. Well, that was mainly for formality's sake. I'm still counting on you both to basically keep things running the way they've been so far. He was probably saying that in the friendliest voice he could muster in an attempt to relieve their tension. Well, Kazami was happy about that consideration. Yes, please. John then followed up as if to support Kazami's opinion. You're right, we can't keep staying down in the dumps forever. The fires are out and we've got a card. Now we can go all the way to Area 6, we have nothing to fear. Yeah, that's the spirit. Watase gave a satisfied smile. Kazami gently touched his shoulder. Thank you so much, Captain. And smiled back. The group then moved on and searched Areas 5 and 6. At one point, the factory ceiling collapsed, trapping Watase and Yuri under debris. But thanks to Watase's quick decisions and his well-toned body, Yuri was saved without a scratch. Thank goodness, thank goodness. Watase then discovered that there was a way to open the door to the cargo lift, the one potentially good escape route they had. Using the nearby crane, they were successful in opening the cargo lift door. They had yet to find the survivors, but still. The 6 of us here can all escape in one piece at the very least. Kazami was grateful to Watase from the bottom of her heart for that. It appeared that those were the only memories that had possibly been altered. Don't you find it a bit surprising how few memories have been falsified? That's true. It's not like the altered memories were all that terrible. But anyway, Miss Tachibana should go back to her normal self if there are no more problems with her memories. He carefully looked through the memories, but it appeared there weren't any more in need of repair. Yes, it looks alright. The memory repair is all done. Yeah, but there's still something we have to take care of first. Erasing the spirit of Subject N that haunted Kazami's brain. It looks like Miss Tachibana's mind has been considerably corroded. Perhaps it's due more to the direct effects of the malice transmitted by N rather than any memory manipulation. I can't think of any other possibilities. Okay then, it's time for the final battle. Let's go. Yes. Time to showdown with N. Malice corrupted memories have been purified. New memories appeared. Let's do it. Natsuhiko kept on reading Kazami's memories. He'd reached the point where she and the others had entered the cargo lift room and discovered Subject N's body. Yes, this is it. This is where that memory is. Ah! Jun, the first to go into the cargo lift room, screamed. Moribe, what's the matter? The rest of the group gasped and ran in after Jun. Only to find the body of a girl they'd never seen before. Everyone just stood absolutely still, overcome with shock. Everybody had been struck speechless by this unfortunate turn of events. It wasn't long before Kazami... I'll run a vitals check on her. Ran over to the girl with that declaration. She took off her vital checker and put it around the girl's wrist. Status all red. Her pupils have dilated. Kazami laid the girl down and spoke. Moribe, help me out. I'm going to perform CPR. Right. Jun hurriedly sat next to the girl. Kazami performed cardiac massage, 15 compressions. Jun performed artificial respiration, 2 rescue breaths. The girl didn't respond. Natsuhiko watched the whole thing through Kazami's eyes. This is where Miss Tachibana was infected by malice. Then shouldn't that girl be showing up any second now? A remnant of Subject N's spirit must be here. Though he thought that, Subject N still hadn't shown up. Time. AD. Guys have to take... It seemed like Watase was saying something behind her, but she ignored him. She filled her hands with strength as she continued the CPR compressions. 15 compressions, 2 rescue breaths. 15 compressions, 2 rescue breaths. 15 compressions, 2 rescue breaths. Before long, the features of the mysterious girl's face overlapped with the face of someone long gone. Kazami unconsciously voiced her thoughts into words. Nagisa, don't die! Jun gasped at that moment. Sis? This girl isn't... But Kazami's thoughts had come to a halt. Jun's voice grew distant and her words carried no meaning. Nagisa, Nagisa, please come back. This can't be happening. Not when we've just now reunited. I don't want this. Her thoughts became less and less coherent. But at that moment... Lieutenant, stop it already. Jun's voice brought Kazami back to reality. Tachibana. Kazami was astonished when she heard Watase's faint whisper. Did I just lose my mind for the first time in years? She thought the absolute loss of sanity she displayed in those weeks after Nagisa's death would never resurface again, but... How careless of me. I have to be calm. Be calm, be calm, be calm. This girl isn't Nagisa. Pull yourself together. Kazami took a deep breath and slowly turned back to Watase. I did everything within my power. But she's dead. She'd been trying to act like her normal self, but for some reason everyone looked at Kazami with what appeared to be fear on their faces. Lieutenant Tachibana? Are you okay? I apologize for causing you all concern. I'm alright now. She spoke calmly once again in order to hide the irregularity in her emotions. But gloom swirled around in her heart. This girl isn't Nagisa. But there's no mistaking that she's a victim of this accident. Yet another life has been lost. Kazami was about to leave the room with that thought, when she suddenly heard a voice behind her. You're leaving? Kazami turned around in surprise. For a moment she thought that the girl had returned to life. And all that she saw was the girl's corpse. Like before, there were absolutely no signs of life from the body whatsoever. Hello? No one answered her calls. I must be imagining things. I'm not calm at all right now. I mustn't let my desires twist the facts. Kazami finished persuading herself and looked away from the corpse. Natsuhiko was bewildered by that memory. But what is this? This is what Miss Tachibana really experienced? Subject N had survived until this time and manipulated everyone's memories. So if Kazami's memories had been distorted, then that meant only her memories before this point in time would have been altered. However, there was no floral scent in this memory, and the spirit of Subject N that had shown up in Watase, Ukita and Jun's mind hadn't made an appearance. What's going on? Is she in another memory later on? Natsuko thusly continued to read through Kazami's memories as he pondered on the meaning of that mystery. It was only a little later that yet another strange event occurred. It was in a memory of right after Yuri had vanished. Kazami and the others hadn't been able to locate Yuri after she'd run off. Watase spoke up beside Kazami in a voice full of worry. This AD will only last about another hour. She'll be in big trouble if we don't find her before then. Yes. Though with that said, if Yuri was hiding a card from us, we can't fully deny the possibility that she was hiding some AD on... Watase's voice grew distant again. Why? Where would she go off all by herself in such a dangerous situation? Please be safe. Kazami muttered that and then went running off. She then heard the same voice she noticed earlier. You've got to find her quickly, or she could end up dead, just like me. The voice sounded as though it were echoing inside her head. Kazami gritted her teeth and mentally replied to it. I know. You're an auditory hallucination, aren't you? It's my guilt at failing to save you that's causing me to hear this voice, isn't it? There's no other way. The voice went quiet. Kazami endured her guilt and continued talking in her mind. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I'll make sure you get a proper burial once this is all over, so please don't blame me right now, at the very least. But she couldn't hear the auditory hallucination anymore. That brought Kazami both relief and a slight twinge of loneliness. Hold on. This is strange, what's happening? Yuri's voice echoed in Natsuhiko's head while he reeled from astonishment. This isn't right, Hikaden, something's wrong. Yeah, what's the deal with the auditory hallucination? Why is that happening? Don't tell me that N used telepathy. Just like you used telepathy on Captain Kasasagi. No, that's impossible. I mean, Subject N's already dead. That shouldn't be happening. What's more, there was no floral scent in this memory either. It was an inexplicable phenomenon that was neither memory manipulation or telepathy, but Natsuhiko knew fully well what it was. Don't tell me that Miss Tachibana... A new suspicion was born into Natsuhiko's mind. It was only a little bit after that memory that yet another bizarre event occurred. It was from when Kazami was resting in the surveillance room after her leg got injured. She was keeping an eye on the monitors by herself. She figured that the least she could do while she was recovering was check the monitors. But she couldn't muster much effort into it. To think that there could be a murder in this facility even at this very moment. Fear and trepidation began to take root in Kazami's mind. Though this was the first end disaster she'd ever encountered, she figured all she had to do was focus on the rescue effort like always. But the situation had changed far too quickly. She was reminded of what Ena had said when they discovered the cargo lift had been sabotaged. This is no ordinary disaster. Someone meant for this to happen. Jin had also said there were terrorists hiding in the city. To be honest, a part of her agreed with both of them. But she didn't breathe a word of it and adamantly denied the possibility. The situation's already harsh. What we have to fear the most is everyone starting to jump at shadows. We can't let ourselves fall prey to that. We must work together to get through this. If we don't, we may not survive. But if she were to follow Ena and Jin's suspicions to their logical conclusion with the knowledge that only 9 people were in the facility, that would lead her to one damning suspicion. One of us is the culprit. That was exactly why Kazami could not admit to the existence of a killer. But in that case, who killed that girl? Why did Miss Yuri vanish? Did the real culprit already escape? Her doubts welled up and filled her heart. Kazami shook her head and denied them. No, I mustn't think that. I'm letting myself fall to pieces right now. It's too dangerous to let those thoughts control me. Just as Kazami tried again to convince herself, a voice called out from behind her. You sure you're okay with that? Kazami turned around in shock. But then she doubted her eyes. A gasp emerged out of her mouth. The girl who had been lying dead by the lift earlier was standing right next to the door. You're... Astonishment stole the words from Kazami's lips. The girl took the moment to speak up. Sorry for startling you like that, but I just couldn't bear to watch you trying to go down the wrong path. She had the same voice as the auditory hallucination she'd heard earlier. An unbelievable thought overwhelmed Kazami. Are you a ghost? Something like that, I guess. I'm not even really sure. You're not sure? If she's not a ghost, then does it make her an illusion? If that's the case, has my sanity already deteriorated that much? What she was looking at didn't seem like an entity as vague as either a ghost or an illusion. The girl continued as Kazami struggled with her confusion. Please don't be so scared. I just want to help you. Why? I don't really know either, but maybe I've taken a liking to you. Anyway, there's something I want to tell you. If you want to survive, you have to doubt everyone around you. Doubt? Doubt who? Everyone but yourself, especially, yes, especially, Mr. Watase. What are you talking about? Surely you've caught on as well, haven't you? Some things about his amnesia are just plain unnatural. That's... You see, I've been thinking, maybe this culprit you're all afraid of is none other than Mr. Watase. Stop. Why would you say that? Kazami instinctively shouted in response to that statement. He's not that kind of person. But really think about it. Isn't there a chance he's lying to you all? Why do you think that he'd have to lie like that? Maybe there's something he wants to hide from everyone, even you. I won't believe that. Who in the world are you? Why are you telling me all of this? I don't know. I have no memories. I don't remember a thing about myself. A lonely expression suddenly appeared on the girl's face. I feel like I was in some dark place for a very long time. I'm sure that it's there that my mind slowly corroded away. All I have is doubt, hatred for others, a desire to kill, and little else. No way. You're talking to me normally right now, aren't you? You're right. I wonder why that is. Sorry, didn't mean to confuse you. Well, I'll be going now. The girl said that, then smiled. Wait! But right when Kazami shouted that, the door opened. Kazami came back to his senses and looked at the door. Standing there were Watase, Jin, and the survivors. Captain, and everyone else too. Tachibana, you by yourself? That is correct. Why, does it look like someone else is here? Kazami concealed all emotion and expression on her face and answered calmly. She didn't want to let them know what had just happened, not by any means. Natsuhiko was speechless. You could hear Yuri's hollow voice. You don't mean that. Just like you, Miss Tachibana was... Yeah. Natsuhiko answered dumbfoundedly. Miss Tachibana was seeing a phantom subject in. Just like how Natsuhiko had seen Yuri's phantom for 9 years. Kazami too had been constantly seeing an illusion so lifelike that she was convinced it had to be real. But why was it only Miss Tachibana that saw that phantom? I mean, this is nothing like what happened with Watase. Subject N's tone and manner of speech were also clearly different from Kazami's. Much like how Yuri's phantom hadn't talked like Natsuhiko. Come to think of it, her circumstances closely resemble yours in that regard, don't they? Lieutenant Tachibana lost his sister 9 years ago and fell into complete stupefaction, and her memory was also manipulated on top of that. So maybe it's not all that strange that she started to see a phantom. Now, I don't think it's enough to explain everything, but he couldn't come up with a clear answer. Natsuhiko read more of Kazami's memory. And the next time the illusion showed up, it was after Kazami and Watase had realized there were no fires in Area N. Tried escaping through the drainage pipe, and failed. It was right when Sally told her that Watase was a terrorist. I said stop. Kazami instinctively shook Sally off with all her might. Sally! Watase ran over to Sally and checked her condition. Oh god, what have I done? Kazami walked up to Watase and Sally in blank shock. Captain, is she... It's okay, she's just passed out. I see. Though she was relieved to hear that, Kazami thought about Sully's words once again. This man is a terrorist, he attacked us last night, and this morning as well. Everything that's happened here is all his fault. Even you should have questioned that idea several times. Those words brought her heart great pain. Her body began to shake in fear. Tachibana? Watase sounded confused. Kazami wrapped her arms around herself to stop the shivers and tried to answer him. Captain, I trust you. That was what she wanted to say. But at that moment, you mustn't trust him. Her voice echoed in her head. The girl from earlier was standing right next to Kazami before she even realized it. The girl looked at Watase along with Kazami and spoke. That Sanemiya kid's right. There really are terrorists, and Mr. Watase is one himself. A thought flashed through Kazami's brain when she heard that. Now that I think about it, that BC rejection group have been causing quite a number of incidents recently. The people who caused the Great Rokume City arson all those years ago have committed yet another act of terrorism. But if that's the case, then why would a BC rejection group attack this facility? The girl answered that question. Hey, there's no nuclear reactor here, right? So if this place isn't a nuclear research facility, what could it be? There's one more industry that's just as vital as nuclear power to this city. Now what was it again? Kazami realized it at that moment. Impossible, is this place a BC research facility? Now that she thought about it, Watase didn't like BC. And that was why she'd barely ever discussed the topic with her. She never mentioned how she had aptitude, albeit not much of it, nor did she mention her sister's case either. So for some reason, Watase's hatred for BC grew worse. He became a terrorist and attacked this facility. Then Dojima and Hiyama tried to stop him and were killed by him for it. Which means those researchers and that girl who got caught up in it all were... And she didn't want to believe any of it. But if it weren't true, then why had Sally called Watase a terrorist? Why did Watase have a gun? Why had he lied? She couldn't come up with a single solid answer. Then if he committed any crimes, it was before he lost his memories. Which means he forgot about his sins due to his amnesia. Those thoughts drove Kazami to look at Watase with fear. Tachibana, why are you looking at me like that? Wait, you don't believe what Sully said, do you? It's ridiculous. There's no way in hell I could be a terrorist. I don't care if I have amnesia. I'm sure of that. You guys know better than anyone else. I've been a rescue worker for ages, don't you? He was right. He was a strict yet kind man who always kept on fighting to protect people's lives. Watase was supposed to be a true rescue worker who taught Kazami how to live her life in a strong manner, while her heart was still scarred from Nagasa's death. My hero was a murderer? Despite that, Kazami asked Watase one final question. Captain, may I ask you just one question? What is it? Captain, why was it that you went down to the basement at 6:42 AM shortly after this accident occurred? I told you guys, that's because Dojima and Hiyama called for me on the radio. So what you're saying is that your radio could receive transmissions then, correct? But you know, I personally tried to reach you on your radio just a few minutes before that. Why was it the Dojima and Hiyama's transmission got through to your radio, yet mine did not? Did you make it so that my transmissions weren't received for some reason? Hey, how long have you been thinking that? Ever since you said you've got some of your memories back, and you told us why you went down to the basement. But I didn't say anything because I trusted you. I figured that time discrepancy was just you remembering the time incorrectly. Kazami lowered her eyes and continued in a shaky voice. I tried as hard as I could to trust you. I've trusted you for as long as I can remember. But the faith she spoke of was shattered by one sentence from the girl. But didn't he betray you? He's the culprit. Hey, you're the one who realized his true colors, aren't you? If he has delivered his just desserts here, then his sins will never come to light. Don't you think you should die here as Watase Kasasagi, the rescue worker? Those words reached the deepest parts of Kazami's heart. You're right. I have to act now to preserve his good name. And in that moment, Kazami's mind was consumed by the void of malice. Right at that very moment, time stopped flowing in Kazami's memories. All that came through after that were fragments of her incoherent thoughts. You went down the wrong path. This is the only thing I can do for you now. Open the gate, Watase. Anger, sorrow, a desire to kill, and all other sorts of emotions. They formed a fierce whirlpool of malice that Natsuhiko was dumbfoundedly floating in. What should I do? How can I save Miss Tachibana? Hikarin, don't panic. The fact that Lieutenant Tachibana has been brought to this state means that N's spirit should be here somewhere. It's just that Lieutenant Tachibana has been infected with malice far worse than the others, that's all. You have to find N somehow and erase her. Right, then I'll go search through her more But right when Natsuhiko thought that, Kazami's head, please stop, was filled with the sound of a woman's echoing voice. It wasn't Subject N's voice. It belonged to none other than the person whose mind Natsuhiko was linked to at this moment. Was Tachibana? How? Neither of them had experienced the target of their sense sympathy talking back to them, while the process was still underway. But that wasn't all. Even more bizarre phenomenon occurred. What? Everything Natsuhiko had seen and heard up to this point in time flashed through his head. You remember that phenomenon? It was those high-speed flashbacks he had when Yuri read his memories this morning, right after he arrived at Labo. Why are my memories being read? He had no clue what was happening. Kazami then continued. So that's what happened, is it? That was the same thing Yuri had said back then. Natsuhiko was assaulted by intense anxiety. Tenkawa, you planned to erase this girl, didn't you? But that's the same as killing him. Do you have the right to play judge, jury, and executioner like that? Answer me, Tenkawa. A savage malice surged forth with that voice. It suddenly started worming its way into Natsuhiko's mind all at once. Natsuhiko then realized he was in danger and cut his link to Kazami's mind. Well, that didn't work out. Natsuhiko couldn't help but scream as he returned to reality. Mashida called out to him in surprise. What happened, Natsuhiko? I don't know. I don't know either, but Miss Tachibana spoke to us in the middle of sense sympathy. What do you mean? Did you finish the malice erasure? No, we didn't. We don't know what happened either. In confusion, they looked at Kazami, who then spoke in a chilling voice. That was too careless of you two. You should have known that diving into someone's mind means exposing your own. Thanks to your mistake, I now have the answer I've been looking for. The answer you've been looking for? The reason why that girl, the one you people call Subject N, died here. The answer was in your memories. That child has been trapped inside this facility for a long time, hasn't she? Natsuhiko was shocked. How did Kazami know that? I thought Miss Tachibana was unable to use BC. As soon as he thought that, a certain thought rose up from the back of Natsuhiko's mind. Kazami was unable to use BC in the past, because her aptitude was low. Aptitude was genetic, meaning it normally didn't change. But there's just one circumstance that can overturn that rule. BC particles. The same circumstances that Natsuhiko and Yuri encountered when they were sneaking into Labo. An environment filled with WX particles. In other words, the conditions inside this facility make aptitude increase possible. Everyone gasped at that statement. Miss Tachibana, don't tell me. You've awoken to BC. I have, and just now, you taught me how to use all of it, Tenkawa. Kazami gave that reply with a smile. A beautiful yet somehow sinister smile, one that sent shivers down the spines of all who beheld it. But still, regardless of how high your aptitude rose, how could you learn sense sympathy in such a short time? This girl here taught me. Kazami looked at the empty air beside her as she answered. The phantom subject in was probably standing right there in her eyes. And by reading her memory, I learned everything. The cause behind the entire incident and that girl's death. So it was Watase after all, and Mr. Ikeda as well. Kazami's clouded eyes were tinged with a glint of murderous intent. Ina took her gun out. Miss Tachibana, don't move! At the very next moment, a tremendous brain-shaking voice echoed through the room. Nobody move! Everybody but Kazami screamed at the sound of the voice. Even Ina cowered and held her head as she struggled to get the gun trained on Kazami. That voice was the same technique Natsuhiko used in self-defense against Watase to stop him in his tracks. Brain damage through high output telepathy. By the time Natsuhiko grasped what had happened, Kazami grabbed Ina's body and hurled her away. Ina's back slammed into the ground and bounced. In what seemed like the blink of an eye, Kazami picked up Ina's gun. She then gazed at the others as they groaned in pain from their headaches. This is terrible. Miss Tachibana awoke to BC while infected with malice. It's highly possible that connecting my mind to hers will just end with her infecting me with the malice instead. Natsuhiko came to the realization of just how absurdly dangerous Kazami was. Extraordinary BC ability, a thoroughly tempered rescue worker physique and a gun. There was no way for them to win. But Kazami spoke to them. I won't kill any of you. Huh? My goal lies elsewhere and it has nothing to do with any of you. I won't harm you as long as you don't get in my way. Please, protect those girls who are precious to you. Kazami slipped by Natsuhiko in his confusion and left the surveillance room, leaving only Natsuhiko, Yuri, Bashido, and the fallen Ina. Just then, Mashido spoke up to break them all away from their numbed state. What was that? What was that just now? What does she mean, my goal lies elsewhere? Natsuhiko racked his numbed brain to think. She said she wouldn't kill them, which meant she's really going to try and kill Watase. But remember what Lieutenant Tachibana just said? The cause behind the entire incident was Watase after all, and Mr. Ikeda as well. She said that she was putting the blame on Mr. Ikeda too, didn't she? Now that you mention it. When Kazami was strangling Watase, she said she had to kill him to protect his good name. But it seemed like her objective had changed. However, it didn't seem likely that she'd go out of her way to kill Ikeda to protect the honor of his name too. Think, why would she target those two? The main thing Watase and Mr. Ikeda have in common is they're both members of Q. Does Mr. Tachibana have a reason to hate Q? No, wait. She also said that Watase and Mr. Ikeda were behind the cause of that girl's death. Right. If you connect the dots, that means Mr. Tachibana is trying to avenge Subject N. But why? How is she related to that Subject N girl? When asked that question, Natsuhiko finally realized something. The test subject's naming scheme followed a very simple rule. And there was something Subject N herself misunderstood. A quivering voice leaked from Natsuhiko's lips. So that's what it was. Huh? I get it now. I figured out Subject N's true identity. She wasn't a child born in Labo at all. After reaching that epiphany, Natsuhiko fell into despair at the sheer cruelty of the truth. Meanwhile, down in Area Zero, Watase's group was faced with oh shit, I missed one. With a different type of despair. We can't disarm the bomb. Watase's exhausted voice reverberated through the room. Watase and the others had taken on the Tetra bomb all by themselves. They managed to remove the digital protection and open the cover in just 8 mere minutes. But Jin then groaned. This thing is no normal detonator. It was far trickier devil than Watase and the others had imagined. It was a detonator built with a nested structure where the fuse was covered with gunpowder that was surrounded by yet another fuse. Even the slightest mistake in the disarming procedure would set off a chain explosion. Is there nothing we can do? I don't think we'd be able to do anything, even if we had more time. It's completely out of our hands unless we were to use an X-ray or something to see the inner workings while disarming it. We don't have enough equipment. I'm not sure we could disarm the sucker even if we were fully equipped. Regardless, we must still take a chance, and it's too dangerous. Even the tiniest screw-up will blow us all sky high. We can't gamble on a risk like that. Sally bitterly gritted her teeth. We have no choice. Let's go back to Natsuhiko and the others for now and come up with a plan. Yeah. The team left Subject N's room and headed for the elevator. Watase thought to himself as he waited for it to arrive. So we can't disarm the bomb. However, there was just one way left for everyone to survive. No, that one way wasn't technically a correct way. In fact, it was clearly the wrong way. For it was something Watase couldn't do. But if it comes down to it, I'll do it. Watase looked over everyone's faces as he thought that. Old man, Mortabe, Sally. I think the old man would agree with me, but... Watase suddenly noticed something just then. Jun had been staring at Subject N's room the whole time. What's up? Are you still worried about the bomb? No. That's not it. What's bugging me is the room itself. Huh? Kind of think of it, Jun had been surprised when we first went into Subject N's room. What about it troubles you? I've seen that place long ago. I got caught up in a gas explosion that blew up an apartment complex 9 years ago. Jun stared firmly at Watase's face. Don't you remember it, Captain? Remember what? The room you found me and Nagisa in during that incident. We were in Nagisa's room when it happened. Subject N's room is like an exact copy of that place. What? Hey, what do you think that means? Watase finally realized it at that moment. A quivering voice leaked from his lips. It can't be. Everyone thought she died 9 years ago, but you're saying in reality Subject N is actually... Kazami's sister Nagisa? Jin silently nodded. What? Impossible. No, it's totally plausible. Yuri had been confined to Labo 9 years ago after they passed her off as dead to her family. So it wouldn't be that strange if they used the same trick to confine Nagisa. So this Nagisa girl was a communicator. Probably, I mean, she was about to start school at Rokume Academy. No way. The elevator doors opened in sync with Watase's cry. Startled, he and the others got on it. Jin continued murmuring on the way up. Sis has it right from the very beginning. She said Nagisa when she first saw that girl lying dead in front of the cargo lift. She was right in front of me and I didn't even realize it was her. She hasn't gotten any older by the look of it. His voice echoed sorrowfully through the dim elevator. Then I caused Nagisa's death through my own terrorist plot? He felt harrowing regret filling him. Kazami thought his sister was dead all those years and today she was finally able to reunite with her. Only for Nagisa to die then and then. Now, if Kazami ever realized that, right when his train of thought reached that point, the elevator arrived in Area N. A light shined upon the team. A shadow stood in the midst of that white darkness. Watase looked at the shadow with wide eyes. Standing there was none other than Kazami. I've been expecting you, Watase, Mr. Ukita. Tears welled up in her eyes as she said that. If you two never committed that terrorist attack, then Nagisa wouldn't have had to die. I mean, her mind was already destroyed by the research, so you should probably deal with the researchers first. She pulled the trigger. The lights in the facility went off at the exact same moment. An automated PA broadcast echoed through the room. Emergency power supply is at operational limit. Now shifting to uninterruptible power system. All power supplies barring that to the control room, Area 0 and WX particle amplifier and all lifelines will be cut. The facility was then sealed in darkness. 4 shadows fumbled their way through the darkness. There were only 30 minutes left until the lockdown lifted. 9 convictions blended in the dark. How did I miss like 2 whole chapters or 3 whole chapters? It's absolutely insane. I apologize so much. At least I'm fixing it now. It only took a year and a half. I'm really efficient, right? In the darkness of the blackout, Natsuhiko, Yuri, Marshido, and Enna supported each other as they headed to Area N. As they walked, Natsuhiko told everyone about the epiphany he just had. Subject N was Miss Tachibana's little sister. They used the same trick they did with Yuri to fake her death and confine her in Labo. was most likely after the apartment complex gas explosion on April 7th, 9 years ago. No way. That's just too cruel. They spoke with quivering voices. Then Miss Tachibana's trying to pass judgment on Q's members for causing Subject N's death. Yes, or perhaps she simply wants revenge. Revenge? We're talking about Miss Tachibana here. Miss Tachibana's been driven to insanity with intense malice, just as much as Watase was when he shot me. And the reason why her symptoms didn't manifest for a while was probably because she had no clear target of hatred. Or she could have been holding it back through sheer force of will. But Kazami now knew exactly who to hate. She even rationalized her intent to murder with the justification that it was to protect Watase's name and to avenge her sister. Miss Tachibana intends to kill Watase and Mr. Ikeda. But even malice infection won't completely erase someone's original personality. Even Watase had shown signs of his original self. And Miss Tachibana, a woman who put her life on the line to save lives but to kill someone, what would happen next? Natsuhiko was struck with an intense unease. They needed to stop Kazami, but how? She'd stolen Ena's gun, leaving Natsuhiko's gun their only weapon. If I'm correct, there are only 2 bullets left, but what can I do with those? What can we even do with this gun? As Natsuhiko touched the gun slung at his belt, Ena sighed and muttered aloud. Mr. Tenkawa, do you think you can erase Miss Tachibana's malice? I think it'd be difficult. She's a completely different case from everyone else. None of the others whose malice he'd erased had been communicators. But Kazami was a communicator. She was Subject N's older sister, and through WX particle-induced genetic mutation, she had likely become a rank S aptitude communicator. The next time I try to repair Miss Tachibana's memories via sense sympathy, she could very well manipulate my own memories before I finish. Then in the worst case scenario, she could erase your memory the very moment you use sense sympathy. I can't deny that possibility. Actually, that possibility was rather high. An even worse case scenario would be the shock of memory erasure could damage his brain itself. If my brain were to get damaged, couldn't that make memory recovery impossible even if I bring Yuri along? That was to say nothing of the accumulated mental damage his repeated confrontations with Nagisa had brought. Ever since he got hit with Kazami's telepathy attack, his head had been aching continuously. Could his next confrontation with Nagisa bring his mind and spirit to their final limits? As Natsuhiko fell into despair, Yuri spoke up beside him. But there's still hope. Hope? Unlike me and Hikiden, Miss Tachibana hasn't done proper BC practice. That means she's not necessarily able to use sense sympathy at will, you know? Once you dive into Lieutenant Tachibana's brain, if you can erase Nagisa with an exceptionally short amount of time, that should spell victory for us. Can you do it, Natsuhiko? Natsuhiko couldn't answer, because that didn't seem like hope at all, but rather nothing more than wishful thinking. I see. In that case, I guess that means I'll have to be the one to do something then. Huh? The moment Natsuhiko asked for clarification, Ena reached for Natsuhiko's belt and snatched his gun. What are you doing, Professor? If there's a problem you communicators can't handle, then it's up to us ordinary people to take matters into our own hands. That's how we at the ESP Bureau have always operated. Wait, Miss Ena, you don't mean... I'll try to persuade Miss Tachibana myself, but if that doesn't work, I'll shoot to kill. No, don't, Miss Ena. Miss Ena, you said you wanted to protect communicators, didn't you? Miss Tachibana's a communicator herself, how can you just kill her? Ena solemnly replied to Machiedo's plea. You kids know exactly how, don't you? September 16th, 16 years ago, the city was set aflame, all because of a single, Enified communicator. She triggered the mass pandemonium, and right now Miss Tachibana is extremely close to becoming the next communicator, eh? And there's no way I can stand back and watch that happen. I'm a member of the ESP Bureau. Ena grasped the gun tightly. Her eyes were no longer those of a teacher. I'm sorry, it's too late for me to turn back. Farewell, my students, our time together was short, but it's been fun. And with that, Ena rushed toward Area N. Professor, please wait! Ena wouldn't stop no matter how much Natsuhiko yelled. His screams faded into the darkness. Let's chase after her, guys. Yeah. Yuri supported Machido and Natsuhiko, and the three of them ran. With each step they took, pain ran through the gunshot wounds all over their bodies. The wounds the malice-infected Watase had inflicted. Natsuhiko no longer knew what was right. But still, there has to be a route that leads to everyone's survival. There just has to be. With that conviction in mind, the three communicators ran. Eventually they saw the gate to Area N. Please don't die on me. As Natsuhiko completed that thought, the gate opened. Beyond that gate, they saw Kazami pointing a gun at a fallen but uninjured Ukita. It seemed Watase had pushed him away just a second before Kazami had fired. In front of the two men stood Jun, covering them. Beside him was Sally, standing at the ready. And finally, beside them was Ena, pointing at another gun. Stop this immediately, Miss Tachibana. This isn't some empty threat this time. Put your gun down right now or I'll shoot. Miss Tsubakiyama, could you please not interfere just this once? I only want to kill these two, that's all. Just Mr. Ukita and Watase. Once I kill those two and avenge my sister, I'll put an end to myself personally. The atmosphere froze at those words. Stop this, sis. Don't kill them. Don't kill yourself. Hold on, Mortabane. I don't care if I die. I deserve as much for my crimes. Captain? Like Kazami, spare the old man, will you? And this goes without saying, but don't you dare die either. After hearing those words, Ukita smiled in self-derision. No, if you're gonna kill someone, then kill me too. That's my atonement. Regardless of my motives, I've caused several victims to. Sally interrupted Ukita. Kazami Tachibana. Let me just say that there is no more time. If you waste too much time here, I'll take you down myself. Kazami glared at Watase without so much as a glance to Sally. The wills of 6 people clashed. What should I do? If this situation were left as it was, then Watase would surely die. Which would naturally make his deal with Yuri null and void, setting her free. But then Miss Tachibana and Mr. Ukita would die too. Do I abandon 3 people to save Yuri? There was no way he could do that. Then there really is no other option besides erasing Miss Tachibana's malice. And only Natsuhiko could do it. Only he could use sense sympathy on Kazami at that distance. But could he erase her malice? If Nagase were to defeat Natsuhiko, then that would mean the end of everything. The more time it takes, the more dangerous it'll be. It'll be a big enough risk just searching through Miss Tachibana's memory for Subject N. In that case, what if I just indiscriminately erase all of Miss Tachibana's memories? That was a measure that Natsuhiko had forbidden himself from taking. It would indeed be the safer alternative. He had done the same to Watase before. But then Kazami would fall victim to amnesia. The moment that thought crossed Natsuhiko's mind, a voice echoed in his head again. Save her! It was the telepathy Natsuhiko had sent 8 hours ago. Save her! The message he'd sent to Watase to make him save Yuri from the flames surrounding her. Save her! The information energy of that message had lingered and now, once again, had returned to Natsuhiko, as if to back up his decision. It was probably just mere coincidence, but he still felt as if someone were giving him that command. What do I need to do for this one? Watase Max... What? Where are we? Watase Max, Kazami Max. Alright, let's do it. When he looked around, it appeared only Natsuhiko had heard that telepathy. You don't have to tell me. There's only one thing I need to do. And thus, Natsuhiko made up his mind. Yuri. Natsuhiko quickly grasped Yuri's hand and dove into Kazami's memories. I can't erase Miss Tachibana's memories. No way in hell. Doing that wouldn't solve anything. It was with that thought that Natsuhiko dove into the depths of Kazami's mind. And besides, I made a promise to myself that when we were walking down that long road to Lava this morning, I swore I'd protect everyone and everything this time. That includes Miss Tachibana, no exceptions. However, as if in protest to his resolve, a ferocious wave of malice suddenly enveloped Natsuhiko. He could feel alarm bells going off in his mind, but he could also hear Yuri's voice. Hikiden, don't lose. I'll always be there to heal you, whether you're devoured by malice or your memories are erased. So you have to help Lieutenant Tachibana. Yeah, you can bet on that. Natsuhiko then headed for the innermost depths of Kazami's mind, to where Subject N's spirit lay. Before long, a sight suddenly spread out before his eyes. He was in her room. Not Subject N's room in Labo, but Nagasa's room in the old Tachibana residence, Room 303 of that long-gone apartment complex. There, he found her. Oh, so you're finally here. Yeah, here I am. I've come to set Miss Tachibana free from your curse. I see. Subject N looked at Natsuhiko and gave him a small hint of a smile. You see, actually, I just read your memories a little while back, and thanks to that, I finally remembered something important. I remembered that I was once called Nagisa Tachibana. That, while there were only 3 of us, me, my kind sister, and my dear Jin, every day was a happy one. But, well, that soon came to an end and I was brought to Labo. And I've spent the last 9 years since then, here in this place. Must have been hard, huh? No, not really. The only hard part was never seeing Sis and Jin again. So long I put up with that, I found that it was a life that I could want for nothing. Natsuko hesitated. She was very different from the other subject N he had encountered. She wasn't imitating Kazami's speech patterns. Her personality was also totally different from Kazami's. It felt like this was her original personality, her true spirit. If I erase this girl, then I'll be killing her for real this time, won't I? Hey, is there really no other way for me to free Miss Tachibana aside from erasing you? Nope. She smiled cheerfully. Kazami will never go back to normal as long as I remain here. For I am malice incarnate, you say. It's impossible, you don't look that way at all. Well, that's because I'm doing everything in my power to restrain myself so I can talk to you. You see, the truth is I loathe you all so much I couldn't possibly begin to imagine it. I'm no longer Nagisa Tachibana, I'm Subject N. It's way too late for Nagisa to ever come back. Sis will never have his sister back. Nagisa is just some stranger whose name I once held, that's all. His smile oozed with malice. The room from her memories began to warp, and as he stood in that whirlpool of malice, Natsuhiko wept. Why? Why does it have to be like this? Subject N's very existence saddened him. He was unbearably sad about the destiny that she'd been forced to bear. We're the same age and we live in the same city. So how can we turn out so different? Can't you just turn over a new leaf? She shook her head. I can't. There are way too many things in this world that we are powerless to change. You can manipulate a memory as much as you want, but you can never change the facts. Like the fact that I want to erase you. With that declaration, Natsuhiko resolved himself. If you're going to erase me, then I have no choice but to fight you. Everyone's lives lie on my shoulders. So I'll do it. Yep, that's how it should be. You and I are different. I can never be you. For that is the universal, absolute truth that governs the barriers between humans. She tapped her temple with a fingertip. Let's begin, Tenkawa. Yeah. Natsuko nodded and brought a finger to his temple as well. Then he began to wish for her annihilation. At that moment, he could hear her voice. Natsuhiko's memories instantly began to reconstruct. The rate they were being repaired outpaced the rate that they were falling apart. Yuri? It's okay, Hikiden, you won't disappear. I won't let that happen, never. Her voice kept Natsuhiko conscious just as he felt that he was about to faint. A will of iron was forged within Natsuhiko's heart. He mustered his entire force of will and focused again. Not on erasing Subject N, but only on setting Kazami free from the malice. Before long, an image surfaced from within the white darkness. It was a vision of a young Nagisa walking far away. Kazami's voice echoed from somewhere. Nagisa, wait! Don't go! Don't go, you'll never be able to come back if you do. Is this Miss Tachibana's dream? Natsuhiko was experiencing the same dream through Kazami's 5 senses. Nagisa soon turned around and smiled at Kazami. Nagisa? Kazami then woke up. What's up, sis? Nagisa looked down upon Kazami. Nagisa? Kazami said that with a clear relief. You okay? It looks like you groaned in your sleep a bit. I had a dream. A dream? Yes, a dream where you went off to somewhere far away. It was a very sad dream. I see. But don't you see, sis? You don't have to worry. I'm right here. That's right. Kazami smiled at Nagisa. You've always been with me, haven't you? We've been together forever. Tears well up in Kazami's eyes. Even after you've already died. Nagisa returned Kazami's smile at those words. Oh man, you figured it out. Yeah. I realized that what I was seeing is just a dream. And that in reality you're gone. That's right. Kazami looked at Nagisa and spoke. Even so, I was glad to see you again. Me too, sis. As I missed you all so much these years. Nagisa grew quiet for a few seconds. Then she started to softly speak again. Actually, I tried to see you again just one time shortly after I was locked away. I tried to escape from Labo. Huh? But a KSM was declared right away, so that didn't work out. And to make matters worse, I got 2 other kids caught up in all that, and their genes mutated as a result. You're talking about Tenkara and Miss Yuri. So please, sis, don't blame those 2. Nor Mr. Watase or anyone else, because none of them were at fault. Yes, you're right. Nagisa gave a lonely smile when Kazami said that. Okay then, it's about time for me to get going. Nagisa? Don't look so sad, okay? I may be gone, but I'll live on in your memories. So just remember, and you can see me again anytime. I'll be with you forever as long as you remember me. Yeah, I know. I'll never forget, I swear I'll never forget, that you're always with me. Yeah. Nagisa stroked Kazami's cheek. Thanks, sis. I missed one. Sorry. Strangely enough, he didn't get the headache and uncomfortable brain-rattling sensation that he'd felt the previous times. It wasn't long before his 5 senses gently came back. The first thing he heard was his newly returned hearing. It was the sound of Yuri's tear-stricken voice. Hikaden! Hikaden, that girl's gone! And the first thing he saw with his newly returned sight was Kazami slowly falling unconscious to the floor. Kazami! Watase ran up to Kazami. He caught her firmly in his arms just before she could hit the floor. Kazami! Kazami! Watase called out her name over and over again. Natsuhiko? Mashida's voice was full of bewilderment. It's over. The malice is gone. Kazami's eyes opened at the same time Natsuhiko said that. Watase? Sis? Jin called out to her nervously, but Kazami alleviated her fears by speaking in a gentle voice. Jin, I'm sorry I worried you. Sis! Jin hugged Kazami while crying. Kazami gently stroked Jin's hair. Thank God, thank God. Sorry I scared you to death, didn't I? Kazami whispered that to Jin and then turned to Watase. I'm sorry, Watase. I hurt you so many times. No, I deserved it. Though of course, I don't think it was nearly enough to make up for my sins. That's enough. I mean it. You tried to rescue the test subjects who were confined here in Labo. You tried to save Nagisa. Even if you failed to do that in the end, I can't blame you. Because you and I have been through similar lives. So I understand your feelings better than anyone else. Watase then silently embraced Kazami. Neither of them said another word. And after everything had ended, Watase walked up to Natsuhiko. Natsuhiko, thank you for not erasing Kazami's memories. No, I only did what I thought was right. I'm glad I didn't erase Miss Tachibana's memories too. Because I heard what she just said. I remembered something after hearing Miss Tachibana talk just now. You may be a terrorist, but you carried out this plot in order to save the test subjects, right? Well, yeah. It's thanks to you that Yuri and I were able to see each other again. So, let me express my gratitude. Thank you. Natsuhiko held his hand out to Watase. Watase gripped the hand with a wry smile. I don't deserve to be thanked. It's not like I did it for your sake. I suppose not. Watase's hand was warm. With that physical contact, Natsuhiko finally felt he was free from the hostility he had towards Watase. But Watase soon spoke up in a serious voice. Hey Natsuhiko, there's something I got to tell you. When we went down to Area Zero, I realized I did something I could never take back. What do you mean? I'm talking about the bomb. You can't disarm it, and to make matters worse, it'll go off before the lockdown is lifted. Natsuhiko, Yuri, Mashido, and Ina's eyes widened in shock. Watase explained the bomb situation to Natsuhiko and the others. And with that, I believe we have caught up and filled the gap with this 4-hour episode of Root Double. I'm glad that I fixed it. I'm sorry it's taken me a year and a half to fix it, but we have done it. If there are any other problems, please let me know. I do want to fix these problems as soon as possible. Promise. Legitimately. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one.